A fountain pen gets thrown at Lionel's face, with the nib flying straight to his face, cutting his cheek in the process. His friend has had enough of his nagging, claiming that no matter what he does, the former always has something to nag about. Just what the hell was his problem? Lionel tries to calm his friend Luke, reasoning that he's not always complaining about everything, but Luke can only see black. And what did Lionel mean he's not complaining? He's doing it right now. Despite being calm, Luke is not having it. Yeah, Lionel may be the vice leader of the Golden Silkwork Butterfly, but even Luke admits that the former's job is to give input on how to run the clan. But that doesn't mean he has the right to stick his nose in Luke's love life too. Luke said this too loudly, so the other clan members heard his claim. From the other side of the door, their subordinates can only feel troubled because Captain Luke is pissed again. The other guy only hopes that this fight doesn't turn into a mess like last time. But back to Lionel and Luke, the former calmly tells the clan leader that he's not telling him who to date. What he's trying to say is for Luke to keep his private life separate from work. Not to take sides, but Lionel has a point. But what exactly caused their fight anyway? To get a better understanding of what's happening, let's take it back to a month ago. The clan put up a recruitment notice, and not long after, a girl named Fina showed up. Luke was smitten, to say the least. The guy was head over heels in love, pronto. Lionel's not too surprised, and it's not strange for romance to spark between men and women. Maybe their romance would have been supported by the whole clan if only Luke hadn't given her special treatment. Can you imagine a brand new recruit instantly getting promoted to squad leader? Ridiculous. What's even worse is that Luke also paid her the same salary as their veteran officers. In a merit-based adventurer clan, nepotism is poison. Of course, you best believe the clan members were hounding Lionel to do something. The female members were this close to throwing hands, while the guys were grumbling non-stop. But even Lionel can see that they too are close to blowing up. They're demanding a pay raise because of what Luke is doing, dang it. No adventurer in their right mind would feel good about a fresh recruit, unproven in battle, who suddenly starts barking orders as squad leader. Naturally, the clan members came to Lionel because they'd had enough. Even he thought it was dangerous too. Considering all things in mind, he told Lionel that if she's serious about the girl, then he should just marry her and retire. Upon hearing that, Luke blew a gasket. He told Lionel that he has no right to meddle in his private life, but the latter is only looking out for the good of the guild. Honestly speaking, he doesn't really care who his friend marries. In fact, he'll even be happy for him. But again, Lionel reiterates that Luke should separate his private matters from the job. This time, Luke is even angrier. Just what the hell is up with that tone Lionel is using? He was so enraged, shaking as he told the vice leader how he's always preaching down on him. Is he Luke's mother or something? Okay, that struck a nerve. This time it's Lionel's turn to lose it. Lionel lets him have it. First of all, they're the same age. And even if he had a son, he wouldn't be so dang stupid, unlike Luke, who is an octopus-headed bastard. The hell? Just who is he calling an octopus? That's it. Luke tells Lionel he's out of the guild. Get the hell out of Golden Silkworm Butterfly, he shouts at the ex-vice leader, throwing the documents in his face. Lionel was taken aback by the proclamation, but he quickly recovered. Before he marched off through the door, Lionel told Luke that this time he's never coming back. Lionel kicks the door open while Luke watches his ex-friend storm off. Just like that, this is how banishment number 2 happened. Actually, this wasn't Lionel and Luke's first fight. Golden Silkworm Butterfly was a clan that the two of them built over 10 years ago. They poured blood, sweat, and tears to make it grow. The two continued to face one peril after another side by side until one day, they finally became one of the leading adventure clans in the city. However, Lionel was kicked out of the clan for the first time. Similar to what happened just now, he called out Luke, but this time it's because of the latter's reckless spending. Once the clan grew, Luke picked up practically every vice known to man. Booze, gambling, women, and the like. He blew guild funds like there was no tomorrow. Of course, once Lionel pointed that out, Luke banished him in a heartbeat. Funnily enough, karma came back in the form of Luke, begging Lionel on his knees to come back to the guild, just 6 months after the latter's exile. Lionel had a lot of things to say, but when Luke told him that there's no vice leader like him with such a sorry look on his face, Lionel swallowed everything and came back. Well, it's because a part of him knew that his friend Luke may be a fool, but he's no villain. Our protagonist really believed that he could admit mistakes and change. From then on, they managed to scrape through other troubles before. But in the end, it made Lionel think that maybe he never really had a good eye for people. Lionel makes his way back to the guild, thinking about how he experienced bad bosses and poor judgment of comrades. Getting expelled twice is proof of that. If he keeps this up, then it will just happen again. Maybe it's time to put an end to his days as an adventurer and find another line of work. But fate has a different plan for our protagonist. No sooner had he stepped inside the guild headquarters than he was welcomed with the cries of 3 girls begging Jennifer, the guild rep, to give them one more chance. Huh? What the hell? The girls are already teary-eyed, begging to give them 3 more days. No, just a day is enough, just one more day, they'll even do anything. There was an awkward pause until Jennifer turned in Lionel's direction, silently pleading with her eyes to help her out. Oh boy, another trouble is the last thing on Lionel's mind, so with that he turns away. Sorry, Jennifer. Too bad for him. Her glare cut through his soul, so this is how Lionel finds himself walking toward them, asking what the problem was. The three girls turn to him, just as Jennifer fills him in on what's happening. Apparently, these girls are about to be expelled for not paying the guild dues. Did these girls really become adventurers without knowing about guild dues? The Adventurers Guild is a mutual group of adventurers, funded by adventurers themselves, which is the guild dues. Anyone who doesn't pay gets expelled, which means they lose the right to sell monster cores, relic roots, or even worse, they can't take guild quests anymore. For any adventurer, that's practically the end of the line. Lionel grabs the girl, holding on to Jennifer, pulling her away from the guild rep. So they're so broke that they can't even pay dues, huh? Jennifer answers on their behalf, saying that shouldn't be the case since these girls already cleared 2 quests. Oh? Lionel's impressed since 2 quests in a month is pretty decent progress. With that said, he says the rewards should have been more than enough to cover the dues, so why can't they pay? It's the girl in the middle who speaks, saying they split the reward evenly among the 3 of them, and the other girl adds that nothing was left. Lionel pulls a face. Of course, they have no sense of organization. They're the type who freestyle things, splitting everything evenly, that kind of thinking. Suddenly, the first girl grabs Lionel's arm, teary-eyed, as she asks him what they should do. Wait a minute, this girl? Instead of answering, Lionel asks if her gift is a hero. The girl is amazed because wow, how did he know that? Lionel explains that the majority of swordsmen have the gift of hero. If anything, this girl reminds him of Luke. Oh. Since they're at it, the girl introduces the other 2 girls. The blonde girl is Misha. Her gift is Saint, and she's their cleric. Meanwhile, the other girl is Milialia, their sage. She's their mage. Milialia calls out the hero girl, Asuka, saying this isn't the time for introductions. What about their guild dues? Upon remembering that, Asuka starts stressing again. Still, Lionel notes that their trio has a frontline hero backed by a saint and a sage. This is a pretty balanced setup. In their world, talents given by the supreme god are called gifts. Every adventurer receives theirs at the church at the age of 10. Luke and Asuka are both blessed with the hero gift. Lionel, on the other hand, is gifted with tactician. It's a pretty rare one, and individuals blessed with this gift are said to excel at strategy, command, and organizational management. Besides gifts, there are also things called jobs, which are the class you fight with as an adventurer. Lionel, Luke, and Asuka are all swordsmen. In any case, Asuka's party forms the ideal party. There are no gaps between front and back lines. Additionally, there is healing, support, and a comprehensive strategy. The only thing missing from them is a leader who will help put it all together. Looking at her now, Asuka is still busy bawling and begging Jennifer to give them another chance. From his perspective, their worst trait is how cozy they are with each other. Splitting rewards evenly is just one symptom, and without setting aside funds, this was bound to happen. Wait, hold up. What is Lionel even thinking? Isn't he on his way to quitting adventuring? But hey, old habits die hard, huh? Besides, it's not like he owes these kids anything. Too bad for him. When he opened his eyes, what he saw were the 3 of them giving him the most puppy dog eyes ever known to man. Before he knows it, Lionel is asking Jennifer how much their dues are and saying that he will cover them. Eh? No way. Asuka says it's too much and almost slips and calls Lionel an old man. Milialia tried to cover for her friend, saying Asuka just means he's so reliable, but even Lionel could see that the mage was about to say the same as well. With that same blank expression, Lionel turns to Misha, prompting the latter to look away. Don't bother. He knows what she's thinking, causing the cleric to start panicking. But trivial issues aside, the 3 of them cling to Lionel, thankful and desperate, begging him not to throw them away. They'll even do anything. Is this their usual tactic? And by that he means Misha's rack bumping on his arm. Lionel was the better man, flicking them all away. Alright, he got it already, he's not abandoning them. Jennifer had to ask if he was sure about this, but it's fine. He was planning on quitting adventuring today anyway. Just think of it as his last bit of service to newcomers. He places the gold coins on the counter and sees how his funds have significantly decreased. Well, it's not like he'll get his deposit back anyway, so he just chalked it up. Jennifer stares worriedly at him, but Lionel doesn't meet her gaze, thinking about how he needs to hurry and find his next job. Just then, he feels someone poking his back. He turns and sees that it's Asuka. Before she can say anything else, Lionel tells her that since their dues are paid, they should make sure to cover them next time. She thanks him and asks if his gift is tactician. Well, yeah, it is. Why? Asuka heard that Lionel is quitting, but isn't that a waste of such a rare gift? Which is why, if he wants to, would he want to join their clan? After a moment, he asks her why. Asuka says it's because he helped them when they were in trouble, but that's not enough reason for Lionel. To that, Asuka explains that the 3 of them became adventurers to help people in need, which is why they want someone like him to join them. At that moment, Lionel could see it clearly. That's pure hero spirit. Well, it looks like a tactician will always end up tied to heroes somehow. With a sigh, he reminds them that the reason he got kicked out of his clan was because he was too strict. They know that, right? But that's exactly what they need. Even she's aware that between the three of them, no one can push back hard enough. Lionel is still a little hesitant, but if they're set on it, then he guesses there's no harm in joining them, with the girls taking his hand as he says so. With that, Lionel finally became a member of the hero party. He appreciates their warm welcome, but first, he thinks it's important to settle the immediate problem. What immediate problem? He points out that the party is strapped enough that they couldn't pay guild dues. Now that he's with them, he wants to stabilize their funds first as their tactician. Oh ho! Asuka's getting excited because the newbie wants to dive in with their affairs ASAP, but the swipe is wiped off her face when Lionel tells them that he needs to know what their current standing is. With that said, he ordered them to report how much cash each of them had. Asuka has 2 silver coins, Milialia has a gold coin, and Misha has none. What did she spend all her money on? Misha says she spent it on donations to the church and snacking her way around town. He understands, right? When you smell a perfect steak, of course, you'd grab a bite, right? He's almost fuming because everyone gets lured by the smell from time to time, but there's a limit to it. With that said, he asks them what their plans for dinner are. But that was exactly why they were in the guild in the first place. Lionel can't believe it. These girls really came to raise money, blissfully unaware that they were about to be expelled. With a sigh, he turns to Jennifer, asking if they have any extermination jobs on their roster. The latter looks through her file and picks one. Hayden Farm has been getting hit by goblins a lot lately, and judging by the timing, she says it wouldn't be surprising if people are getting hurt too besides the livestock. Okay, they'll take this one. But as he logged in their details, Lionel forgot that he was no longer part of his previous clan and almost wrote Golden Silkworm Butterfly again. He turns to Asuka and asks what their clan is called, and she shamelessly says it's Hope, as in, they're promising enough to put your hopes on. Lionel can't even hide the face he's making right now. What a bold name. Fine, he'll see to it for a month. But if they're still a promising newbie in a few years, then this is all just a big joke. With that, they make their way to Hayden Farm. Asuka is pretty confident about this mission, saying that it would be easy with this many people. Lionel chastised her, saying she shouldn't get cocky. Sure, a person can take one goblin head on and rarely lose, but what's really scary about them is... Speak of the devil, before he can even finish his sentence, Lionel says this is their cue. They could hear the goblins gathering near them before they could even see them. He tells the trio to fight like they usually do while he watches their strengths and calls it. Asuka straight up bolts to the enemy, leaving Lionel speechless. This girl? Doesn't she know that the strength of goblins lies in their swarming in packs? No true veteran charges in alone like an idiot. Lionel is about to draw his sword, worried about Asuka's reckless behavior. Is she stupid? Just what is the point in forming a party then? But before he could even draw his sword, Milialia stopped him. She's not worried. In fact, she's smiling, reminding Lionel that he was going to watch how they fight first. At that, he came back to his senses. Right, he needs to watch their fighting style. A goblin sneaks up on Asuka, but she was just waiting for the moment to strike. She cuts down the enemy, and Lionel, who was watching from afar, notes how she's just winging it and going all out. No strategy, just wild, reckless brawling. Be that as it may, even he could see how she moves pretty sharply. Another goblin comes from the side and nicks her while a small one jumps her from behind. Asuka manages to avoid fatal hits, but she can only go on for so long doing this. Lionel knows this can go south pretty fast. What's more, the burnout is brutal. She may have dodged earlier, but now all her focus is on the front row. While she's busy fighting the front, a goblin attacks her from behind. She couldn't turn fast enough when she heard their warning, and the enemy sent her flying and injured toward them. Just then, Misha steps in and uses long-range heal. So that's the plan. Lionel even thought Asuka was sent too far back for a goblin heal. But the reason for that is so Misha can use her technique on her. Which means during that small window when Asuka is being healed, Milialia lets it rip on the enemies using her mana bolt. After burning some of the goblins, she tells Asuka that the latter has 12 seconds until the volley ends. A newly healed Asuka is up and ready to go. She charges straight to the enemy again while Misha tells Lionel that this is their guaranteed win tactic. Guaranteed? What the hell does she mean by guaranteed? Lionel almost burst Misha's eardrums, scolding her because honestly speaking, they've just been winning on pure luck. Basically, their strategy goes like this. Asuka charges alone, bunching enemies in one spot. Then she pulls back at the right moment. During that gap, Misha heals her and Milialia blows up the clustered enemies. Any stragglers get cut down by a freshly healed Asuka. Rinse and repeat. This is an insane decoy strategy, with Lionel telling them that they'll run out of lives fighting like this. He joins the fray and cuts down the enemies, seeing how Asuka is also starting to struggle. A couple of goblins jump her at the same time, and since there's no time to put her guard up, she accepts her fate. But Lionel steps in and cuts down all of them, asking if she's still up. This time they're back to back as he tells her to keep her eyes up front and not overthink. She can't help but flash a grin at him. This feels like they're comrades, no. But Lionel is too busy fighting, so she should hurry up and do so too. While they're busy at the front, Lionel instructs Milialia to chase the goblins with magic since they're breaking up. The latter does as she is told, while Lionel tells Misha to guard Milialia since one or two will slip their way. The cleric takes down the stragglers while Asuka finally finishes the last goblin. Wait, what? How did that happen? Lionel just joined them and suddenly, they're done in just 30 seconds? The hero has a hard time processing it, but Lionel can only sigh and wonder when these promising newbies will become real hope. Meanwhile, at the Golden Silkworm Butterfly, Luke asks Fina if she wants to fill in and become the guild's vice leader. Is he serious? Does Luke think she can handle it? He assures her that she can. Heck, even Lionel managed it. Dog, your bro was a tactician, that's why he could handle it. But yeah, even Fina knows that it was only possible then because Lionel was kind of amazing. Amazing? Luke frowns because suddenly, memories of Lionel nagging him to get receipts, telling him to dress like a leader, and prohibiting him from drinking past midnight flooded his mind. Lionel seems more like a nagging mom to Luke for sure. But back to Fina, he tells her that Lionel wasn't useless, but he is replaceable, Fina isn't. And that's more than enough for Fina. Sure, she'll give it a shot. Luke will help her out, right? The latter says he will and tells her to move her desk to his office. The two guild members from before heard it all. Didn't those two from above know that sound carries all the way to the first floor? The dark-haired guy, whose name is Nicole, says they're doomed. The other guy tells him to knock it off, reminding Nicole that they pulled through 5 years ago, remember? Nicole knows, and it's because Vice Leader Nell came back then. But it wasn't just because the captain reflected then. One varying factor is that the problem back then was just between the two of them. The light-haired dude, Joshua, thought that the clan was really done for that time. Even Nicole says he never saw Luke and Lionel go that far. Back then, all of them believed that the bond between their big bros who'd shared it all wouldn't break so easily. This is why the third wheel this time, Fina, is a problem. Nicole says that this time it could be worse than 5 years ago thanks to their new vice leader. Joshua tells him to quit saying that, but man, does he wish that their captain would own up to it and apologize. Nicole knows that won't be for a while. Their captain is stubborn and hot-headed, which is why they needed someone like Vice Leader Nell. Joshua remains optimistic, saying that's exactly why he wants the captain to apologize as soon as possible. Once Vice Leader Nell is back, then they'll be their usual selves again. They still might make it in time, so in the meantime, Joshua suggests they keep grinding for quests until then. Nicole stops in his tracks, wondering if it really was that simple. Is Vice Leader Nell the kind of guy who'd come back just because they said they were sorry? A pot hangs over simmering in the makeshift stove while someone's hands are busy washing laundry. Yep, this someone is none other than Lionel, muttering about how nice the weather is today. Maybe it's also a good time to wash the sheets. Suddenly, the door to the ramshackle building behind him bursts open, and there's Asuka vying for his attention. "Look, Nelson!" she cries. But he's more concerned about the door. It's damaged enough as it is, can't she be gentler? To that, she apologizes to Mama Nell. The heck, who's she calling Mama Nell? But more importantly, look at the logo on her chest. Does it look good on her? Asuka had it embroidered. Nell flatly tells her that it looks good, but Asuka's not too happy with his reaction. He's not even faking his disinterest in it. Nell continues to wring the clothes, asking what Asuka wants from her. She wants him to be loving and manly, that's what. He fires back that it's laundry before love and courage, now hand over the sheets. Asuka does as he says with a pout while he hangs the clothes to dry. So why exactly is Nell doing housework? To have a better understanding of this, it all dates back to a few days ago. After a long day, the Hope Clan finally wraps up their last mission. It took a while, bleeding into the night. And it's the last one out of the back-to-back missions they took ever since Nell joined them. He points out that they don't have much choice, or else they'll fall behind on guild dues again. Mission and guild dues aside, aren't they too far out now? He asks if they're any closer to the House Clan yet. Asuka jogs ahead and tells him that they're almost there. It's just right by the river. Unknown to her, he's already making a mental note of how their location is pretty rough. But hey, at least having nearby water is a blessing. Asuka points to a building just a few feet ahead and welcomes Nell to Hope's clan house. Nell doesn't know what to expect, but it's certainly not this ramshackle shack. He was too shocked that the guy did astral projection, still processing whether this dilapidated building is really the clan house. The three of them start taking their clothes off, heading to the bath, but where would the bath even be inside this building when suddenly all three of them jumped into the river? While in their birthday suit, these girls even had the guts to ask if Nell wanted to join and bathe with them. Nell stood dumbfounded like a clothes rack while the girls enjoyed their bath. He starts folding their clothes and setting those aside while Asuka tells him that they have no kitchen. though they usually eat outside anyway. Plus, none of them can cook, even if they have their own kitchen. Nell sucks his breath before scolding them again. Don't they have an ounce of modesty in them? And so that's how Nell has been living for the past few days. First, he's set on making their lives livable. So far, he has built a laundry rack and a stove. He also discovered that the three of them grew up in an orphanage like Luke and him. So yeah, he gets that a roof and a place to lie down is enough mindset. But that's no way to live. These girls deserve better. He starts stirring the stew he's cooking, thinking about how the trio needs to eat and sleep well too. He does a little taste test, but the salt is a bit strong in this one. From the back, Meisha and Milialia arrive, rolling a giant cauldron. Meisha happily announces that they brought back what he asked for, but Milialia is not too happy because it's too heavy. Mages aren't built for heavy lifting, you know? Nell commends them for their good work. Misha, on the other hand, starts salivating with her eyes twinkling. Nell notices, asking what's up with her face, so she tells him that with a cauldron that big, she can't help but imagine just how much food they can cook at once. He hates to break it to her, but they're not going to use this cauldron for cooking. He starts stacking up stones and setting the stove on top. Now, they just need to burn firewood underneath and boom, they now have a nice hot bath. Oh, so from Milialia's understanding, they can now bathe together, right, huh? What the hell is she on? But wait, why is Misha fidgeting like that? She didn't expect him to call her out, so since she's caught, she tells him that she bought meat because she thought they were going to do hot pot in the big cauldron today. He can't believe it. She splurged again? Upon hearing that, Asuka chimes in that she does too. She spent a lot on the breast embroidery. Nell is just about fed up with their antics, but welp, guess they won't be back at the clan house for a while. Cut to the next scene, Milialia casts a mana bolt at an open field, while Asuka takes down several werewolves. The only thing is that she almost got caught in the fire, barely evading her friend's attacks. Nell tells her to be aware of Milialia's line of sight, and Asuka is quick to oblige. She charges straight at the enemy again, leaving the latter in a panic. Nell runs along with her, and together they surround the werewolves while Milialia uses her mana bolt on the clusters. The others start running away, breaking up the pack, which is their best chance at attack. Nell tells Asuka to keep pace with him, and he's pretty pleased with how they're adapting so well. It looks like the goblin fight the other day paid off, huh? If there's one thing Nell is bent on, it's to never run a decoy strategy that needs a sacrifice. Adventurers fight to keep everyone alive. Asuka takes down another werewolf just in time for Nell to call out to Milialia. Without him telling her anything, she knows what to do. She uses Mana Bolt on the clustered wolves fleeing the scene. A straggler sneaks up on Milialia, so Nell calls out to Meisha. The cleric is quick on her feet and smacks the wolf away from Milialia. Meisha prays over them because even if they're foul beasts, even the supreme god has mercy for them. After saying her prayers, Meisha uses her long-range heal on Asuka, which is right on time. Meisha checks if Milialia is uninjured, and the latter says she's good. Nell notes how Misha isn't as flashy, but she's the glue that holds the front and back lines together. If she could take command, then Nell could retire. Later that night, all four of them toast to a job well done. Asuka's glad that the meat May bought didn't go to waste, and Nell is quick to quip that they're broke, so there's no wasting ingredients in this house. But now that he thinks about it, Nell is curious why May doesn't gain any weight. Asuka quickly grabs the former's chest and says it's because all the fat goes to her boobs. Unbelievable. Just when Nell thinks that the three of them finally have their act together, they start acting like this. Milialia starts the conversation about how they can handle 30+ monsters now without breaking a sweat. Nell points out that it only works on favorable terrain because at the end of the day, they've been picking fights where the field favors them. It's way too early for them to get cocky. At what he said, all three girls stopped and stared at him. So Nell continues that today they won because it was in the middle of the day and out in the open. There are other things, but those two are the main factors. What makes monsters terrifying is the ambush. As if to prove a point, he quickly draws the stick forward. An ambush is like getting stabbed out of nowhere from the dark. That's the scary part. Lightning hits a nearby mountain, causing a landslide and blocking the road. A man calls out to Luke, pointing out that their path is blocked, so they need to take a detour. The clan leader asks if they can't do anything, but given the gravity of the situation, they can't. It won't budge, Luke calls it. They need to turn back since they have no choice. But in doing so, it'll cost them some time. That's when one of the guild members whispered how this wouldn't have happened if only Lionel were there with them. Luke stops dead in his tracks, then glares at the former. What the hell did he just say? The poor guy had to back up, and Luke warned him not to say stupid crap like that ever again. Fina, who's sitting pretty inside the carriage, saw all of this and worried about Luke, who had his fist balled in anger. Then we have Lionel, who's glaring at the request board in the guild. Jennifer stares at him worriedly. Nell continues to stare and groan for a while, so Jennifer has to tell him that his staring and groaning around the request board are bothering the other adventurers. Finally, he turns to her and asks if she knows any good requests. Good is a bit vague, so Nell had to specify that he's looking for something that will help them fix up the place before the winter, and enough to pay out to secure a proper roof over their heads. That look on his face is scaring her, so Jennifer flips through the request to see if there are any that tick those boxes. Well, how about charting the ruin they just discovered? Jennifer says the request is from a local landlord. Ha, atta girl, that's what he's talking about, he's in. Suddenly he's so suave, proclaiming his love to Jennifer. He says the next meal's on him, but Jennifer refused him. She knows he'll just drag her to Hope's shack for cheap barbecue. With a sigh, he clarifies that it's not cheap. It's poor. Jennifer can't help but chuckle. Isn't he the ex-vice leader of a proud clan of Galia? And here he is, reduced to this sorry state. But more importantly, has Nell heard of the rumor? Huh? What rumor? She starts whispering to him about how the golden silkworm butterfly failed a request. Word spread that they couldn't deliver supplies to the capital on time. After a pause, Nell asks how late they were, and she says about 3 days. He had to repeat her answer to be sure. So Jennifer added that the clan cites the cause of the delay as a landslide from heavy rains. That's no excuse. Nell knows firsthand that the golden silkworm butterfly was hauling cargo to the capital. Urgent cargo like military supplies. Seasonal rains should have been anticipated. The clan couldn't even handle that? Nell starts listing the things they should have done, starting with apologizing to the client and salvaging trust immediately. But wait, what the hell is he even saying? This is none of his business. Anyway, he checks the paper for the request earlier, asking Jennifer if those are all the signatures before walking away. Jennifer calls out to him, worried, but it was Nell who apologized. His usual meddling almost slipped out. Seriously, what the hell is he even thinking? He's got others to look after now. As he walks outside, some of the other adventurers recognize him. Isn't that the old vice leader of the golden silkworm butterfly? But the other adventurer points out that the clan has a woman as their vice leader now. What was her name again? Fee something? The two continue their conversation, talking about how there's a rumor of a rebellion happening. If that happens, what if the golden silkworm butterfly collapses? Well, it only means more work for small fry like them. Nell returns to the clan house, and the girls instantly crowd him, firing one question after another. What kind of request did he take? Dragon hunt? How much is the reward? Only Meisha is complaining about being hungry. The poor guy is plastered to the door, telling them to back up a bit, since if they crowd together, the floor will collapse. He tells them the next mission, and Asuka can't believe it. It's not a subjugation mission. Nell explains that for this one, they'll mostly do exploration. She starts to pout because mapping ruins is boring. Meanwhile, Nell continues to scour for supplies, telling her that, of course, it's going to be boring. It's a preliminary survey before the exploration begins, so it won't be flashy. Be that as it may, it pays well. Untouched ruins often mean treasure left intact, and at the mention of that, Asuka starts getting fired up too, because does this mean there are monsters left intact too? Unbelievable, this girl is such a battle junkie. Anyway, this is the reason why they need to prepare for the worst, and at the mention of that word, Milialia asks if he's referring to something like a monster ambush. She's obviously worried, and Nell says they have to be ready for that too. She turns away, and it makes Nell wonder if he scared her too much the other day. Their little clan made it to the site soon enough. Nell checks the urban ruins from where they stand, saying plenty could be living here. Asuka's all excited that her blades are itching. He tells them that more blind spots mean full surrounding vigilance. First, they need to form ranks, and Asuka's hand shoots up so fast claiming she'll take point. Nell tells her no, prompting her to ask why. He explains that this is their first exploration mission. What's Asuka's plan moving forward? Plan? She intends to just walk straight in. So he had to ask, what if there's a trap underfoot? Even he can't always predict what era's tech they'll find without looking inside. With that said, safety first. Asuka understands what he's saying, but she wants him to trust her. She'll trust him and the others, so he should let her lead from the front. He was taken aback by her sincerity, but crap, he almost stunted their growth. In the end, he caves in and says he'll cover their 6. The foursome made their way inside the ruins, taking ginger steps. After a little while, there are still no monsters. Nell notes how it's too quiet, so if there is a monster, maybe it's an intelligent one. Asuka tells him not to worry because she won't drop her guard, she just did. Anyway, Meisha just laughs along. She'll be counting on their captain. Milialia is unusually quiet, thinking about what Nell said. Those intelligent monsters. She starts worrying, but at the same time reassures herself. It's fine. Asuka is at the front, so she'll cut them down like always, while Milialia will back her friend up with mana bolts. Just then, Asuka spots a hulking figure a few feet from them. She tightens her grip on the sword and charges straight at the mannequin-like monster. She strikes it head-on, but what is it? Nell instructs Asuka to keep her distance, just as the monster attacks the latter. This time, Asuka tells Milialia to stick by Mei, which the latter does. Eyes up front. not knowing a monster is sneaking up behind her. Milialia looks at the last minute, just in time for Asuka to pull her back, just as Asuka leaps high in the air. If she can't cut it, then she'll just smash it. She did hit it with a thunk, but nothing happened. This monster is still intact. How come that didn't work either? Nell finally speaks up and tells her that it's a golem. She'll need way more force to even crack the thing. While the golem is nursing its head, Asuka notes how she needs more force and turns to a frozen Milialia. The latter is close to a crash out because Asuka's attacks aren't landing. And a golem? She has never seen anything like this one. She's so taken by fear that she can't make out what Asuka shouts to her. In her panic, Milialia accidentally casts Mana Bolt, much to Asuka and everybody else's surprise. Asuka gets out of the way just in time. She actually wanted Milialia to cast Mana Enchant, not Mana Bolt. As the flames start to dissipate, the golem remains standing. This just caused Milialia to panic even more. Her Mana Bolt has no effect at all. Nell grabs Milialia by the shoulder, causing the latter to turn to him with her staff up, ready for defense. He lowers her staff and tells her to calm down, then instructs Misha to buff Asuka. The cleric casts Holy Light Shine on their swordsman, signaling that she's good to go. Asuka thanks her, and this time she manages to cut the golem in half. It crumbles to the ground a moment later, with Asuka showing them a V sign for victory. Nell commends her for a job well done. Meanwhile, Milialia wordlessly watches them as she tries to calm herself. After a while, Nell approaches her, asking if she's feeling better now. Milialia says she's much calmer now and apologizes for what happened. She's always had a problem whenever things don't go exactly as she imagined and ends up freezing up, not knowing what to do. Admittedly, she can't react instantly like Asuka, nor can she look out for everyone else like Meisha, so what good is she to the team then? Nell pats her on the head and tells her not to worry about it. After all, no one is perfect when it comes to unexpected situations. He didn't judge her at all because, unlike swordsmen who train their bodies for reflex, mages must read the arena. They need to understand the situation and pick the right spell. So when it comes to an unknown monster, Milialia is up against her worst possible match. Nell continues to assure her, saying she'll get used to it. But until then, she can rely on him. She only giggles at him in reply, which made Nell wonder if he came off too pushy with what he said. Asuka comes running to them, calling out to him with urgency. It's Meisha! Their swordsman says the latter is hungry, with Meisha dramatically saying she can't hold out any longer. But being the prepared mother hen that he is, Nell hands her a pemmican sandwich. He warns her not to eat too much since it's made of pure fat. But that's more than enough for Meisha, thanking their Mama Nell and even saying she loves him so. Milialia watches them with a smile because Nell really is like their mom at this point. He may not show it honestly, but he's a little touched, though he said they could at least call him their older brother. While he's looking away, Meisha has already finished the pemmican sandwich and is asking for more. But Asuka is excited to get back to exploring since Milialia's fine now. But these girls really, at least it's good to know Nell's current clan isn't short on personalities. The foursome resumed their exploration later on, and along the way they encountered more golems. This time, Milialia didn't freeze up. She took action and cast Mana Enchant on Asuka, allowing the latter to take down the golem. Looking at their fallen enemy, Milialia can't help but feel sad and wonder just who these golems were protecting the city from. What was the point of guarding it now? Nell replies that she can just look at it this way, because the golems held the line, the monsters didn't wipe out their party. Thousands of years later, they still have their culture and customs. That analogy prompted Milialia to ask if he's a secret romantic, but Nell says he's not. If anything, he's just grateful that because of the golems, it means the treasure's still lying around. Asuka has bigger problems than that, though. She finds the golems' movements too simple. If it were up to her, they would have more attack patterns. Like they should shoot beams from their eyes or something like that. Nell can only sigh because this girl really is a total battle junkie. Their exploration of the ruins wrapped up soon. After they returned to the guild, they all headed back to the Hope Shack. With the payout settled, Nell tells them that the clan's savings are off limits and that they shouldn't waste their shares. Since tomorrow is their rest day, he says they can use that time to recover or enjoy themselves, so they should use it well. Asuka turns to Mei with excitement, talking about tomorrow, but the latter turns her down since she needs to go to church. Asuka turns to Milialia, but the mage says she'll be at the library studying. With tears in her eyes, Asuka finally turns to Nell, and this time the latter agrees with a sigh. She beams because tomorrow they're going on a date. A date, huh? The next day, the two head to the city where Asuka waves him along to eat meat. What the? She's just like Meisha. That's because for Asuka, meat is just ice, or whatever that means. But more importantly, she's impressed by how the houses in the city are pretty huge. Nell says it's built that way so only the wealthy can safely live within the walls. Did he say safely? So does that mean they have no leaky roofs or rats running around? There's no waking up to squeaking at night. That's a pretty sad way of thinking now that he heard her say all these out loud. Okay, Nell has decided. they're going to get a cat. Instead of getting excited, Asuka is worried because Nell is not going to raise it for food, is he? The hell? Of course not. Just what does she take him for? The cat is for catching rats, of course. Sure, it's another mouth to feed, but with a cat in the house, there won't be any chewed-up supplies. So with that, they head to the pet shop. Just like that, the two spent the day leisurely, checking out new gear and eating good food. And Asuka even thought a maid outfit would look good on Nell. Finally, they went to the pet shop to pick their newest four-legged friend. But they ended up back in the guild's cafeteria. Why wouldn't they? Access to that place is a perk of being a registered adventurer. But to Asuka, that just translates to being the cheapest option. Right, Mom? Nell can't believe the nerve of this girl. Did she just call him a mom and stingy at the same time? He believes that the food at the guild cafeteria is genuinely good and not cheap. He takes a bite of his dish and notices the kick of spice, making a note to ask about the blend later. Nell thinks this could add more variety to their meal, while Asuka looks at him with a sheepish smile. This is exactly why Nell is their mom. But yeah, Asuka still prefers meat though, which made Nell comment on how all three of them are carnivores. Upon hearing him say that, Asuka raises her hands doing claw-like motions, telling Nell to let her eat him sexually. You can imagine just how fast Nell scolded her and got up from his seat. No vulgar words at the dinner table. Just then, Jennifer spots them and hurries over to their table looking worried. She informs them that an urgent request just came in, asking them to report to the front desk tomorrow. Meanwhile, at the Capitol, Luke is being grilled by their client. The latter tries to reason that the heavy rains forced them to take a detour, but their client refuses to hear his excuses. The older man can't believe how one of Galia's top clans missed a deadline by 3 days. The older man continues that it looks like their clan has forgotten the weight of being royal contractors. Luke starts to become frantic when he hears that. The older man can't be serious, can he? They were late for just 3 days, for goodness sake. He still doesn't get it, does he? This time, the older man raised his voice, stressing the fact that adventurers like them live freely in this kingdom, drinking and boasting, only because the royal knights shield them. Fools like them may not understand it, but in war, victory belongs to those who command time. Had they been able to strike first, then the royal knights would have already crushed the rebels by now. The older man has had enough. Clearly, this job was way too much for Luke and his clan to handle. With that said, the golden silkworm butterfly will never be seen in the capital again. Luke just felt the weight of the world cave in on him. Back at their headquarters, he slams his drink on the table, cursing because just remembering what transpired makes him sick. What's worse is that their client even slapped them with reparations. Fina approaches him, saying he shouldn't worry, this is just bad luck. She holds him in her chest, assuring him that things will work out somehow, while he clings to her tightly. Outside their office, Joshua and Nicole hang around, hearing the two's dialogue from the inside. For one, Joshua wants to believe that everything will turn out fine too. But seeing the captain like this, all they can do for now is apologize. If only Vice Captain Nell was still there with them, then he'd already be begging for forgiveness. And yet look at Fina. Just what the hell is she doing? Before he could lose it, Nicole tells him to drop it. After all, she became vice captain without knowing the first thing about leadership. Joshua's surprised that his friend is unusually calm about all this. With a long face, Nicole tells him that he made up his mind. He's quitting the clan. That made Joshua stand from his seat, and Nicole already has a list of pros in quitting. He can fetch a good price from the Undertakers, and urges Joshua to come with him. It didn't really take too much to convince Joshua, since he knows that there's nothing left in the guild. The big bros they once looked up to are already gone. From here on out, Joshua says he'll go with Nicole. The two clasp hands, vowing that they won't end up like them. Several wagons trudge along, with the Hope clan on board one of them. They're seated with the other knights, with Asuka asking if they're really doing the right thing by joining this fight. Both Milialia and Asuka are worried since they will be going up against people who oppose the royal family, isn't that right? Nell is also serious and tells her that it is as she said. Their mission is to hunt the rebels who fled into the mountains. Their target is indeed humans. Milialia got up from her seat with panic, correcting him. They're rebel creatures, not humans. She needed to brainwash herself into thinking like that, or else. So how exactly did they end up in this situation? Flashback to last night, Jennifer approached them with a royal request to suppress the rebels. From what she heard, there are fewer than 100, and about 500 adventurers and mercenaries will sweep the mountain. But Nell's not too sure. Is a small fry clan like them even supposed to be there? To that, Jennifer tells him that they specifically want Hope, adding that their performance in subjugation quests has been outstanding. She may say all that, but Nell knows that Jennifer must have pulled strings to get them in. After all, for royal orders, they'd normally recommend a big-name guild to boost the guild's clout. But he believes it's because of their good conduct, no? Does the guild think they felt grateful for Hope's shabby barbecue party? Well, Jennifer could only hope so. So back to their current situation. There are fewer than 100 on the rebels' side versus 500 disciplined royal knights here. Plus, there are also 500 adventurers, including them, the Hope Guild. With those numbers, they can focus on scoring merits. But, then again, gathering adventurers just to act as skirmishers? Nell knows something's off. Anyway, Nell tells the girls not to get too worked up. Instead of forcing some heavy resolve, he advises them just to clear their minds and drop their reasons for now. Because if they're not a little unhinged, then they won't be able to kill people. Everyone was quiet after what he said. Asuka breaks the silence, shakily saying that they fight with the intent to kill. That decides life and death, right? That's what Nell taught them. He's surprised that she still remembers that. Well, how could she not? Nell always tells them that after warning them not to let their guard down. Milialia slaps both of her cheeks, prompting Nell to ask if she's okay. Yes, she is. Her brainwash is complete. Nell looks at them fondly, seeing how these girls have gotten so strong. But Misha, though, he wonders if she had always been a natural powerhouse from the start, looking at her sleeping face. Before the sun sets, the troops manage to set up camp just in time for Misha to wake up. As she stretched, Nell asked if she was alright with all this. She turns to him in all seriousness, saying that suppressing rebels is pretty much the same as fighting heretics, isn't it? Dang, she really is a powerhouse. Nell had to suppress himself from fanboying, but it also quickly dawned upon him that Misha is still 16, just like Asuka and Milialia. He tells her that if it gets to be too much, she should let him know. Like the others, she calls him Nell Mama and says that he's so kind. She promises that when the time is right, she shall offer him her purity. Does she always have to go there? One of the knights shushes, announcing that General Kitos, who commands the whole force, will address this operation personally. Okay, Captain Shady. The general speaks and tells everyone that they will camp here tonight and sweep the mountain at dawn. He continues that 500 of their royal army are already encamped at the base of the mountain, but Nell's attention is elsewhere. Our guy noticed a lone soldier heading into the woods, while the general ordered them to rest easy and restore their strength. Aha, so that's their play. Nell's big brain already understands what's about to happen, and if anything, that general is a crafty old fox. Nell motions the girl to move closer and tells them they should set up camp right where the hunt starts. Later that night, a soldier reports to the general's tent, informing the older man that deployments are as ordered and that the scouts also report that all is well. The general eyes his sand table, telling the soldier that they'll prepare for a sortie in an hour and a half until dawn. True enough, the tents start burning at the given time. Their camp is under attack. While many of the soldiers scramble to safety, Nell and the girls are safely tucked away in a different area. It's just like Nell said, they're attacking HQ and the supply train. Asuka doesn't understand why they're only attacking there and that spot precisely, so Nell explains it for her. It's the work of an informant. To deal with real damage, it's better to ambush HQ or supplies than the earnest vanguard doing the sweep. However, that's only on the premise that they know the exact locations. So what's this about an informant? Nell says that the informant is someone planted by General Kitos himself, which only means that the general never intended to do a real mountain sweep. According to the information, the royal army set up camp at the base of the mountain for the sweep, and the rebels are fewer than the publicly announced suppression force. This gives the rebels no choice but to set an ambush. This is probably the general's information strategy to make them think like that. Asuka asks him what else they could do, but instead of answering them directly, he urges them to think about it. There's a whole mountain. Can a mere 1,000 troops fully surround it, especially with no blind spot? Not happening. If anything, they're the ones getting mobbed. Considering all these pieces of information, the publicized general numbers are to rattle them and steal their cool. For that reason, the Hope Clan and the others were called, not as the real fighting power, but to inflate the headcount. Asuka can't believe it, they're being used as bait. So does this mean that they never expected anything from them in the first place? Well, to put it bluntly, yes. On the bright side, General Kylos is not a flower-brained commander who builds a plan around hired thugs as a core strength. This still pisses off Asuka, but it's a good thing that Nell already has a safety plan in place. Of course, Nell already has a plan to earn credit from here. The question is, are they in? The rebels and the knights are going at it with full force, dead bodies everywhere. But the latter refuse to cower. On the other hand, the rebels are also set on taking as many of the king's dogs as they can. Kill them all, they said. The general, who has only been watching from the sidelines all this time, finally decides to join the fray. He cuts a few men down with one slash and starts ordering his men to hold the line. He claims these are dead men walking and tells his soldiers they shouldn't fight them head-on. Instead, they should surround, drive, and dogpile them. Suddenly, there was an explosion behind the general. He turned just in time to hear someone ask if he was all right. Of course, it's the adventurer clan Hope. They have come to back them up and are here to help the soldiers of the royal army. As expected, Asuka thrives on the battlefield, cutting down the rebels one after the other. Nell also fights alongside her, leaving the other soldiers in awe. They pierce armor like it's nothing, like an unbeatable hero. Well, that's what most people would see, but there's a trick behind this. Nell gets nicked in the arm, so what's the magic behind all this? First, their enemies have lost their cool, which means they're full of openings. Second, Nell's sword carries Meisha's holy light, while Asuka's blade is blessed with Milialia's magic. But that's not all there is to it. As if on cue, Meisha uses her long-range healing while Milialia uses her mana shot. Impeccable timing as always. The combo of Meisha's healing and mana shot is still going strong. The final ingredient to their formation is the magic support from a safe distance. Thanks to that, they can fight with peace of mind, and Meisha and Milialia are handling things just fine. General Kido saw how good they are and commended them for fighting well. Because of them, the general says he's still alive, so he won't forget this debt. Nell is honored by the general's words, but for now, he urges the older man to keep his eyes up front and escape the crisis before them. With that said, the worst should be behind them, and victory for the royal army is near. After the fight, the general asks for the names of the Hope clan members. Neil is quick to bow, introducing himself as Lionel, and explaining that they are adventurers from Galia. The girls follow his lead, bending the knee as he tells the older man that their names are Asuka, Meisha, and Milialia. The general personally praises Nell's command, saying his talent is wasted on a nameless stray. Okay, that's pretty rude. Like most greedy men, the general wants Nell on his side, so he's quick to invite our guy to serve under him. Nell knows that if he nods here, even a knight's title may no longer be just a pipe dream. Can you imagine an orphanage brat climbing that high? Well, that was always the dream he and Luke shared, or rather, was. The girls turn to Nell anxiously, just as Nell tells the general how much his words honor him. Be that as it may, Nell has taken it on himself to guide these three girls next to him. Until they're full-fledged, he has no intention of serving anyone else. With that, the general turns his back on them. So, Nell serves as their teacher, not their strategist. The general lets him off with a big smile. This general is more flexible than he thought. The general turns his attention to the girls, telling them they should be proud since they have a fine teacher. And they all gleefully say they are. After the whole fiasco, they return to the guild. There, Jennifer says a commendation arrived from General Kaitos, leaving Nell impressed. That man sure is dutiful considering they got paid enough already. Jennifer is even happier than they are, adding that this just shows how grateful the general was to them. After all, commendations to commoners are pretty rare. Nell feels a little pressure because it's way too much honor, and the letter is even addressed to him. Jennifer's excited because this one will definitely go down in history. Nell takes the letter gingerly and turns away, finding it hard that something like this is really happening. Jennifer also hands out the general's gifts to the girls. For Asuka, the general prepared a magic sword, while Meisha is gifted with an amulet that has defense enchantments. Lastly, Milialia is given a circlet that amplifies mana. The three of them are all giddy with the present, with Asuka naming her new weapon the Asuka Blade. For Meisha, it's Meisha's guard, and lastly, there's Milialia's talisman. Nell stares at them from a distance, and not to burst their bubble or anything, but if they sold all that, they could finally leave the shack life behind. Of course, the girls are totally against it and clutch their gifts tighter. Nell tries to reason with them, saying a dumpy shack doesn't suit them, and if the general saw it, he'd cry. While they were busy talking, they didn't notice the door to the guild open and someone enter. The girls continue to tell Nell that selling the items would make them cry. Nell is a monster. At the mention of his name, this figure who had entered uttered Nell's name. Did he hear them say, "Lionel?" Our guy suddenly feels all the blood drain from his face as he hears that familiar voice. It was Luke. The golden silkworm butterfly leader approaches Nell, then suddenly glares. Nell blocks him from the girls, and to their surprise, Luke drops to his knees and begs him. This is it, the exact same scenario from 5 years ago. Luke is begging Nell to come back to the golden silkworm butterfly again. Even back then, Nell hesitated, afraid that he'd repeat the same mistakes if he returned. Despite these doubts, he still went back because he wanted to trust the man he'd called his family. Nell really believed Luke would change, that things would get better, and that someday, he kept clinging to that someday, clinging to illusions about Luke. In reality, Nell was the fool. His common sense is working this time, and even though Luke threw himself on his feet, Nell doesn't feel anything. So what is this? Does Luke need money again? Before the latter could answer, our guy tells him to take the savings he left. Just call it hush money. Nell explicitly tells his ex-friend how he's not coming back. At this, Luke is quick to anger and he can't believe what he just heard. So, he won't return even if it's his sworn brother who bows his head to him? Bringing that up made Nell pull a face. He really had the balls to bring up about family now, huh? Speaking of family, Nell asks how Joshua, Nicole, and the old officers are doing. Again, before Luke can answer, Nell already knows that they all quit. He looks at Luke with disdain as he keeps on asking about the others. Oh wait, there are no others. Luke is left with only the vice captain, right? That's it. Luke has had enough of Nell's sharp tongue. He grabs his sword, angry at how cocky his ex-vice leader is getting. But no sooner than he did that than the girls inserted themselves between them, protecting Nell. Asuka tells him head-on that if he's going to draw his sword, then they're going to make this old man regret doing so. The girls position themselves between Nell and Luke, with the latter shell-shocked at the way they stood up for his ex-best friend. Asuka still has her arms out, asking Luke if he knows what will happen if he cuts someone down while inside the guild. Even he should know the repercussions of such actions, shouldn't he? From behind, Nell notices Asuka's whole body is shaking. But it's not just her. All three of them put their lives on the line. Then what does that say about him and Luke? Isn't it pathetic? Admittedly, Nell knows he and Luke are the ones who lost their cool. Just then, Jennifer calls one of the guards, and with gritted teeth, Luke turns and leaves. Nell tries to reach out to him while Asuka apologizes to him, thinking that she may have been too nosy. Nell pats her on the head. He assures her that she helped, and he's grateful for that. Asuka was about to ask about Luke, but Meisha held her back, urging their friend to wait for now. Their cleric had to remind Asuka that Nell was kicked out of his clan for being such a nag. But does she really think that issue alone is enough for Nell to pull a face like that? Asuka lowers her head upon realization, but Meisha thinks they'll just wait until he's ready to tell them someday. Meanwhile, there's Nell, who's busy apologizing to Jennifer for the commotion they caused. Anyway, Meisha tells Asuka that they should keep Hope as Nell's home. Oh, his home, yeah, that could work. Asuka believes Meisha is right, but hey, no sneaking ahead, okay? Both Meisha and Milialia noticed how their Nell mama is a bit more biased toward Asuka lately. Obviously, the lady swordsman tries to brush it off in embarrassment. Just what the hell are these girls saying? Meanwhile, we have Luke, who walks with his head down in the streets. He's reminded of the last time the guild members begged him to bring Lionel back. Even they knew that they wouldn't be able to finish off the reparation fees for the kingdom. Luke suggests they sell off the furnishings just to get by, but that's exactly what they're doing right now. While the members are busy racking their brains, there's Fina, who stands quietly at the back. Just then, she has decided. She takes off the butterfly claw clip from her hair, just as Luke tells them that he'll bring Lionel back. Hell, he'll even grovel if he has to. That's when Luke noticed that Fina was no longer there. It's over for him and the guild. Because of the royal damages, their headquarters were seized, and by then, it was still not enough to cover the fees. Luke walks along the city streets with his head down. He's got nothing left. Not fame, not fortune, not comrades, and not even his best friend. Hell, not even a lover. As soon as he thought of that, a familiar hair blew right in front of him, along with a yellow butterfly. Luke looked up to watch the butterfly when he saw it. Before him, Fina was happily smiling, clinging to another man's arms. Next, everything happened like a blur. Fina turns just in time to see Luke draw his sword out of rage and cut off her right arm in one stroke. He would have been ready to do more had the soldiers not stopped him from killing her right then and there. This infamous incident became a ballad sung at a local tavern called The Butterfly at Sunset. With that, the bard wraps up his song. Other adventurers began talking about the downfall of the once great golden silkworm butterfly. They never really thought the clan would end up in a song like this. Still, it wasn't exactly epic enough for verse, and the clan didn't really have any real villains. Be that as it may, it was pretty obvious that they were all fools. Speaking of fools, that one fool got hauled off, right? They wonder if he will be receiving the death sentence, but another claims that the fool is the luckiest bastard alive. So where exactly is Luke being held? The poor man's chained up in the dungeon, which is fairly lucky for him, by the way. Because Fina survived, Luke dodged execution, but there's no denying the fact that the crime he committed is heavy. The folks at the tavern were wondering what kind of penalty awaits him. Could it be hard labor for life? But yeah, just like the ballad's title, this was one hell of a downfall. On a lighter note, let's get back to the Hope Shack. A certain paw playfully pats the flap of a letter when the cat hears its name called. Lion King. Not a moment later, Nell picks up the feline, coddling the kitty and saying he should only punch mice. Milialia looks up at him judgmentally. For some reason, Nell acts like some dad whose family only plays with him on the weekends, so he's stuck in bed. Okay, but did she really have to drag him like that? Rude. It's true, though. Milialia points out how he's stuck here moping at home instead of gambling or hitting the brothel. Why does Milialia have a bad Nell headcanon? But more importantly, Nell scolds her for pushing adults into having bad habits. Relax, she's only messing with Nell. If anything, Nell is in the way of her cleaning, so it would do her good if he just played somewhere else. Nell feels hurt. Why does this girl treat him worse every day? Plus, he's broke, so how exactly can he go out and play around? That's when Milialia noticed the open letter on the floor. She reaches out to pick it up, but Nell puts his hand over it, explaining that it's a letter that would embarrass him if someone else read it. Wait, could it be? Milialia stares at him wide-eyed, asking if the reason he's broke is because Nell is spoiling some girl at the brothel. In her imagination, he's acting cool and all that, and then proceeds to cry on Nell's chest. How could he act like this? After all that time preaching to them about frugality, he's going off to some woman after all this time? Nell didn't even bother correcting her idea of him. So to avoid the ruckus, he decided to leave the Hope Shack and head straight to the guild. There, he takes Jennifer's hand, once again proclaiming his love for her. But actually, he just wants her to treat him to tea. Jennifer pinches his hand away. Didn't he already pull this stunt on her before? But other than that, she's more interested in that new kitty they adopted. Nell is also teary-eyed from how hard she pinched him, but she's firm on not treating him today. He can always go for the water spout at the training yard, right? Aha! Of course, there's the training yard, but wait a minute, Nell feels like everyone's been acting pretty cold around him lately. Jennifer ponders over this. But no, she doesn't think so. She does think that everyone's just trying to grow more without relying on him. Ouch! Now that brought tears to poor Nell's eyes, so is that it? He's not needed anymore? Jennifer couldn't believe this drama queen, so she pushes him off and urges him to get that parched throat hydrated so he can think this over slowly. Nell headed to the water spout at the training yard, and yes, that water did refresh him. Life has been restored at last. That's when he noticed two adventurers sparring just a few feet before him. Oh, that's Asuka! The girl lunges toward her opponent but stops before the latter's blade could reach her. She quickly evaded his enemy's swings, with Nell noting how her movements have become pretty good. Looking at her now, she's like a totally different person from 3 months ago. If it's her, then maybe. Nell continues to observe Asuka's spar from a distance. She finally notices him standing there. Asuka, being Asuka, took her eyes off her opponent and waved to him instead. Of course, that earned her a solid bonk to the head. Anyway, she wrapped up her session soon after, and Nell started nagging her pronto. Resting is part of training too, you know? She can only smile sheepishly and admits that she feels like she'll only get weaker if she stops. Nell sighs. He gets it, okay? But he would appreciate it if she didn't sneak around behind his back to train. If she gets hurt, then it defeats the whole purpose of training. You got it, Nell mama, Asuka cheerfully replies. But Nell still nags her with a threat that naughty kids who worry their moms get punished. But is it really a threat? If anything, Asuka would happily take on his punishment if it meant getting spanked in the bum. Nell tells her outright he's not spanking anybody. Asuka continues to tease him, but Nell's eyes dart toward Jennifer, with the latter waving him to come closer. Jennifer has good news. She has the perfect job for poor old Lionel, which sounds pretty pathetic now that she said that out loud. Anyway, what kind of job does the wicked Miss Jennifer have in store for them? One threatening, huh? From her, and Nell quickly backtracks on what he said. So the job. Jennifer says it's an escort mission to the capital. At the mention of that, Asuka perks up. Are they going to escort an actual princess? Jennifer finds her amusing, but no, it's actually a merchant escort. Asuka's face fell as soon as she heard that. Sure, this could be an opportunity for them if they can actually pick up work from the capital. However, Nell points out that it's a big if. So how exactly does this mission make it perfect for them? Jennifer explains that the client specifically requested a small female-led party. Doesn't that sound just like Hope? Nell could only groan because it reeks of crime if you ask him. A client requesting a small all-female party? That definitely sounds sketchy to him. Oh, but he underestimates Jennifer too much. She did the work and looked into it, telling them that the client herself is actually a woman. Oh, then that explains it. Of course, a female merchant may not feel safe hiring a bunch of guys to escort her. Okay, Nell tells her that they'll take the job and depart in 3 days. 3 days later, Hope meets their client, Anita. The poor girl looks worried, asking our little clan to take her safely to the capital. What Jennifer said was true about the client being a woman, but no one said the rest of them are all men. That crucial piece of information wasn't included in the brief at all. Not to be judgmental, but they all look the lecherous type. Suddenly, Misha's eyes lit up. She tells Mama Nell that she just got a revelation from the Supreme God. Nell can already tell what she's about to say, but yeah, did she sense evil? Misha lowers her head and says that it is so. You see, those with the saint gift sometimes receive revelations from the Supreme God, and one of them is called Sense Evil. It lets the cleric detect beings with wicked hearts. Hell, even without the revelations, it's obvious enough to see a setup this unnatural. Just look at Anita's body language. The poor girl is uncomfortable as heck with that perv's hand on her shoulder. Be that as it may, Nell still wants proof, so right now, this is still just a guess. Meisha understands, so Nell gives her additional instructions to keep feigning ignorance. They should act like they haven't noticed yet and fill this in for Milialia later. Since Asuka can't keep a straight face, Nell says he'll be the one to talk to her once they make a move. Of course, there's also the matter with Anita. They have to save her too. Nell agrees, saving her was part of the plan from the start. Misha smiles because this is exactly what she expected of their Mama Nell. She already knew he'd say that. In his mind, they can definitely use Anita as bait, especially to lure in prey. Meisha went ahead and tapped Milialia to inform them of the plan, leaving Nell wondering how to play this out. From Galia to Galancran, the royal capital, it usually takes about 7 days. But 3 months ago, heavy rains wrecked the highway, and it's still not fully repaired, so they have no choice but to take a detour. The side roads aren't maintained and there are no inns on the way, which means they have no choice but to camp. Nell surveys the map and points at key areas, explaining to everyone that they'll be camping out tomorrow and the day after. He instructs them to keep a fire going at all times and to be ready to respond to anything. One of the older guys tells him that he doesn't have to be so keyed up. He should take it easy. Lionel flashes him his business smile, saying they're just rookie adventurers, so they should be careful. The old man is undeterred and tells him to lighten up. On the upside, it's no wonder those girls trust him, huh? Just when you thought they couldn't get any creepier, these pervs just did and even roped in Anita into their conversation. She starts to fret and stutters but agrees to what they just said. Nell worries over her and can only look at her from a distance. But one of the men assured him that Anita's just shy. The older man adds that if they feel tired, they should tell them any time. Nell and the others smile and they'll do just that. It was obvious. These pervs plan to hit them during camp, presumably on day 2, when focus drops. Nell knows because that's when they've struck these past months. The women they attacked likely never reported that they've been assaulted by merchants for fear that they may be mocked for not fighting them off. What's even worse is when women adventurers vanish on the road and the authorities barely investigate it. The guild is not any better since they didn't even send any search teams. In a world like this, scum like them act brazenly. Nell keeps an eye out, noting that the next 2 or 3 days are the crux. He turns to Meisha, telepathically telling her that he's counting on her. Nell knows for sure that the first one they'll target will probably be her. I mean, just look at Meisha. If you need more proof, just look at the men salivating and ogling at her behind their backs. Later that night, they set up camp as expected. Since the tents are already up, one of the men offers to do dinner prep. Nell refused because they can't possibly impose on them like this. That's when they put the spotlight on Anita. Her cooking is the best. They have to try it. Anita looks uncomfortable as hell and wouldn't meet Nell's or the others' gaze. They pat her head until Anita finally looks up, distraught but smiling, as she tells Nell that she'll do her best. His heart almost broke seeing her like this. Cut to later. Dinner is already done. Asuka beams because it looks so delicious. She praises Anita for her cooking skills, but the latter remains modest. It's not much, but this is the least she could do to help. Nell only stares at her before he takes a seat and tells everyone to eat while it's still hot. Asuka takes the first bite and goes off about how delicious it tastes, with Misha chiming in about how the meat is just perfect. Of course, it had to be her who said that. It's always about meat when it comes to Meisha. Nell was just about to scold them not to talk with their mouths full, but he couldn't get the words out. He drops his spoon and starts shaking. Oh no, his body is... Nell sways from his seat and clutches his chest in pain before collapsing on the ground. The girls are now on their feet, panicking at what they had just witnessed. But before they can even reach out to him, Asuka and the others also collapse as they feel weakened. The creeps appear, grinning from ear to ear. Idiots, they say. Strategist or not, they can't believe Nell didn't even notice they slipped him a sedative. They approach him cautiously, rope in hand to tie him up. Just kidding, huh? Before they can even register who said that, Nell gives them a mighty roadhouse kick before getting up on his feet. He turns to the girls. Everyone, pin them now. Asuka easily tackled a couple of those pervs, with Nell keeping an eye on her. He didn't notice one of the dudes was creeping behind him until Anita bashed the guy's head. All of them turned to her. She just saved them. Let's take it back a few hours earlier. Anita was cooking dinner when Nell approached her. She quickly faces him, hiding the item she was holding behind her. Dinner's not ready yet, she says. But Nell didn't come because of that. He just thought he'd lend her a hand. He's the one who usually cooks for the girls, so doing nothing makes him antsy. Anita was about to say another excuse to drive him off, but Nell assures him she doesn't have to pretend anymore. She doesn't have to hurt anyone anymore or get hurt herself. She couldn't take it anymore. She broke down and cried. She can't believe it after all this time. Nell takes the potion from her hand, saying this time, it ends her. To do that, Nell is going to need her help. Which brings us back to the present. All the pervs are tied up now, cursing Anita for selling them out. The guilt trip her, saying she's just as guilty for tricking all those women. They turn their anger to Nell and the girls. Did they really think they could just lay their hands on merchants like them? Oh, but on the contrary, that's not what Nell is thinking though. He squats to level with them to reveal something they should know about adventurers. You see, the adventurer lot always takes revenge no matter how many years it takes. If they can't do it, then they make sure their children will carry it on. Simply put, adventurers never forget. So in line with this crucial piece of information, Nell tells them that once the public discovers that they're repeat offenders, all those women who kept quiet all this time will finally make their move. Even the guild. Nell is obviously enjoying threatening these men, and Anita can only stand back as she watches him do the talking. He's definitely a good man, but with a wicked streak. Asuka cuts in and asks Nell what they should do with them. Nell Mama pokes them with his sheathed sword, saying they have two options. drag them back to Gallia, or take them to the capital as planned. Without even looking at them, Nell already knows what the girls' decisions are. They're practically emitting "we want to go sightseeing at the capital" vibes right now. With a sigh, he caves in. Fine, they'll head to Galencran, the royal capital, tomorrow. And everybody cheered. Well, suffice it to say that their excitement was short-lived because the following day, Asuka just about had enough. Are they at the gate yet? Galencran is too big. On the upside, at least she's getting the hang of the wagon now. Nell assures her that they're almost there. Just look. The welcoming guard is there. The latter approaches their wagon, asking if they're the adventurer clan Hope. At the mention of Hope, the townsfolk turn, excited to catch a glimpse of the Hope clan. Lionel talks to the guards and introduces himself as the leader of the clan. He sent an advance notice motioning to the men at the back, saying they brought the rapists into custody. The guard commends Nell and the others for a job well done, relaying to him that the garrison captain has a summons for Nell. The guard instructs Nell to head straight to the 3rd barracks. Nell takes the reins from Asuka, saying he got it from here. She's still reluctant to let go, but Nell says it's fine. The three of them should answer the capital's cheers. The people are yelling their names: Asuka, Milialia, and Misha. They're heroines who punish the enemies of women. Nell couldn't be prouder hearing them being cheered like this. The only downside is that nobody's shouting his name. He's the poor wagon driver, asking everyone to clear the way. A few days later, Nell visits a certain manor and relays this story. The person he's conversing with couldn't believe his ears. Did Nell really stay put and act like the girl's coachman the whole time? Nell can only smile sheepishly, but that's exactly what happened. The person he's talking to is none other than General Kaidos himself. The older man can't believe the leader really acted like a mere coachman. After recovering from his laughing fit, the older man got serious. So, Lionel came all this way to his manor to ask for a favor, right? Is it about that matter? Actually, Nell says it's for another matter. It's about the one who drove the wagon with him to the capital. He hoped General Kaidos had heard about the incident, which the latter says he has. General Kitos did. After all, Nell's recent accomplishment made it to the papers. So yeah, Hope may be celebrated right now, and the three heroines are famous enough to be illustrated in the news. On the other hand, the townsfolk aren't too keen on Anita. Hers is a complicated matter. Although some sympathize with her, the stairs left her with no place in her trading house. What's even worse is that the firm that produced those 7 criminals is under fire and near collapse. The employees keep saying that Anita should have just kept quiet, and they go on blaming her. Wow, victim blaming in 2025. Back to the present. Nell knows he's troubling the general for this even after the recent affair, and the latter knows so. Nell asks General Kaidos to extend his hand to save her. The general burst out laughing again. This is just a small matter, and by doing this, his fame will rise. If anything, he feels good to have Nell owe him. The general is already looking forward to Nell repaying it properly someday. That got Nell sweating. He thanks the older man for his generosity and promises he'll return the favor with a bit of interest if he can. The general brushes it off because he knows Nell will be penniless, interest or not. Oh ho? This just perked up the general, but Nell tries not to dwell on that. Kaidos wouldn't let it go though, because he remembers there's a certain fool who poured his entire fortune into some unimportant scheme. Nell drinks his tea shakily, averting his eyes from the general. Well, they have tea and time, and the general pours him some more. This time, Kaidos says it's about time they talk about that former captain of the golden silkworm butterfly. Given how cold and dark it was in the dungeons, time has no bearing there. Luke has grown shabby and rugged over time. He was sitting in his cell when a soldier approached him. "No, 314, get out, move," the guard told him. To his shock, the guard continues that he was granted amnesty and will meet a dignitary who will lift his sentence. While the guard continues to instruct him to bathe and make himself presentable, Luke can't believe his ears. Wait, he was granted amnesty? Just what the hell is going on? With that, the guard left him by himself, saying he'll come back after a while. Luke's head is spinning because he really was left to his own devices. He did as the guard instructed, cleaning himself up. Hell, they even lent him a razor. As he stared at the blade, he could hear a voice warning him not to do anything stupid. It was Lionel's voice. Of course, he's not really there, but Luke could see his image in the mirror as clear as day. When you don't know how things will play out, don't burden yourself with any disadvantages, this version of Nell tells him. Luke can only curse under his breath as he puts the razor down. He can't believe Nell's words are what he's remembering right now. Before he could ponder over it, the guard returned and told him it's time to go. Luke meets with the person who granted him amnesty, and it's none other than General Kaidos himself. But first, the older man had to clarify if Luke was the same Luke from Golden Silkworm Butterfly. When Luke said he was, the general simply told him that his sentence was lifted. Furthermore, the high-ranking official instructs him to offer thanks for His Majesty, King Morrison's grace. In his mind, Luke wonders if the man before him has the clout to petition the king. As far as he knows, he doesn't know anyone like that. Still, Luke did as the older man instructed. He bowed his head and expressed his deep thanks. "With respect, Your Excellency, may I ask, was this amnesty granted at someone's recommendation?" Luke asks. "Mine, any problem with that?" was General Kaidos' curt reply. Luke didn't push any further because that one line alone tells him that someone asked him to do it. And Luke knows exactly who that someone is. He's fuming, gritting his teeth because he knows exactly who that someone is. He was so mad his fists were shaking, trying to contain the intensity of his rage. General Kaidos notices this and doesn't say anything, but Luke is still pissed as hell. So is he playing hero and pitying me? Then why ignore Golden Silkworm's crisis? And now he shows up to rub it in, Luke thought. "It isn't much, but keep it. You'll need money to get your life back together," the imaginary Lionel tells Luke as he hands a small pouch of gold coins to the latter. The latter can't believe he's receiving another handout for him because there's no way in hell. Just how far will Nell go to make a fool out of him? And yet, all Luke can say is, "My deepest thanks." So back to General Kaidos' summer home. General Kaidos shared that Luke looked at him like a wounded beast. As it turns out, the above is an account of what has passed. Nell looks down and doesn't say much. General Kaidos has something to say, though. "If it were me, I'd kill him now and cut off future trouble. He may come for your life someday," the general tells Nell. To the older man's surprise, Nell stands and says, "When that day comes, I'll cut Luke down when he does. Just call this tying off a loose end," he says. Huh? Even the general was weirded out. What the hell is Nell saying? Anyway, back to the point, the general mentions the girl Anita this time. He wonders why Nell won't just accept her into their clan. With shame in his voice, Nell says it's because they don't have the money to hire her. "A strategist like you, living in poverty? You could take a post anywhere if you wished, you know?" the general points out. Nell has thought about it, but ultimately he can't leave the girls behind, at least not until they're first-rate adventurers. But first-rate, huh? Sounds ambitious now that he remembers how the girls are. They're broke, with one of them always hungry and the other one a scaredy cat. These girls still have a long way to go. Still, Nell decides to stick it out with them. "You don't understand, he's their mom." General Kaidos sees how much poor Nell is suffering. I mean, being a mom is a tough job, so he asks if Nell wants him to post a direct request. Of course, it's a hard yes for our MC. That's what he thought, and yeah, Nell may have easily agreed, but this direct request General Kaidos has for them makes no sense. Their job is to clean a vacation home, but what's even more peculiar is that the general is paying more for that than for goblin hunting. Asuka couldn't care less what the request is because the general helped Anita, gave them a job, and before that, he even gifted her a sword. He's already Asuka's second favorite after Nell. Milialia, on the other hand, is a bit worried, because after everything the general has done for them, this would mean that they need to rush and help the general if something urgent happened to him, right? To that, it's Misha who answers. It's true that Nell and the general are close, but it's not all upside. She explains to the two that if the general falls or gets accused of treason, then they'll get dragged in too. Misha and Milialia exchange a worried look before Asuka comes bursting in, telling them that they're overthinking it. She laughs heartily, telling them that they'll start to get bald if they keep overthinking it. Nell grabs his full head of hair, terrified at the idea of getting bald and hoping that Asuka is also right. Cut to the next panel. Asuka is shouting in frustration. "Stupid General Kaidos, I hate you." Nell reminds her that that's not what she said about the general earlier this morning. But in Asuka's defense, nobody bothered to tell her that they'll be cleaning such a big estate. Unlike her, Milialia and Misha already had an idea that it would be something like this. With a high payout like this, they figured the request wouldn't be so easy. Well, no use moping around. Misha and Milialia both remove their clothes, with the latter volunteering to sweep the second floor. Poor Nell is once again exposed to their unnecessary exhibitionism. The poor guy had to fumble around with his hands over his eyes, asking why they undressed. "Why?" he asks. "It's so they don't dirty their clothes." Sure, they can bathe when they get dirty, but the thing is, they don't have a change of clothes with them. As if that's a good enough reason. He karate chops blindly, only for his hand to wedge in between Misha's melons. Nell pulls his hand away as if he got scalded by hot water, uttering gibberish at that. Anyway, he can't believe they just went here without a change of clothes. Does he really have to inspect their belongings too? Milialia starts picking her clothes from the floor, telling Nell that he's seriously mistaken. It's not that they didn't bring a change of clothes. These are literally the only clothes they have. "You can't wave a sleeve you don't have," she tells him with a smile. Then there's Asuka, who goes full-on birthday suit, revealing how they borrowed money to gear up for the first job they ever got. Nell is in panic mode because why is this girl also taking off her underwear? But wait, huh? Did they just say they're in debt right now? Rather than answer him, the three girls dash straight to the general's summer home, eager to get started on their cleaning tasks. Okay, fine. They should at least get started on cleaning. While the girls were busy making the interior spotless, Nell was outside weeding the grounds. As troublesome as those girls are, you can never say crap about their teamwork. It's top-notch. He only wishes they could keep that bond forever, not realizing his thoughts had wandered over Luke. That topic aside, Nell admits that the yard is pretty huge. Looking at his surroundings, it dawns upon him that he and General Kaidos really live in two separate worlds. I mean, who else owns a villa at the scenic Lake Mikasa? Speaking of the lake, Nell mutters to himself how he wants to swim in that lake. Asuka must have some super hearing skill because the second-floor window bursts open with her yelling, "Let's all go and play, Nell!" By now, he's unfazed by her outbursts and points out that they're still on the job. However, they will be staying in the villa for the next 3 or 4 days, so they need to stock food and supplies. Most importantly, he tells her that they also need work clothes for the 3 of them. But we're fine like this," Asuka replies, then quickly adds, "But swimsuits would be nice." Suddenly, Meisha and Milialia join her at the window with their cleric once again getting excited at the thought of food. "I wonder what the local specialties are," Meisha excitedly says, and it also made Malalia wonder what this region is famous for. The 3 girls were already excited talking about food and things they wanted to buy, but Nell could only mutter to himself that he was not allowing them to splurge. In the end, the 4 of them got ready to head back to town to buy supplies. But just as they were about to leave, they failed to notice the eerie heads bobbing over the lake, watching them intently as they went. "Why? Why did you betray me?" The image of Luke's forlorn face that quickly shifts into fury jolts Fina awake. It was just a bad dream. She sits up on her bed looking out the window as she remembers it's been 3 months since Luke attacked her. It's not really the time to be haunted by nightmares, given how she needs to think about how she's going to survive from now on as a disabled individual. Maybe dying's the only way, she muses to herself ironically, when the very topic of her nightmare appears on the window looking down on her. She smiles bitterly, asking the man she once loved, or did she? If he broke out of prison just to finish her off. He throws the pouch of gold coins on the bed, telling her to use it for living expenses since he can't support her for life. Still, there are at least 200 gold coins in there. But Fina ignores this as she stands and tells him she's disappointed in him. "You hate me, don't you? Then kill me. What are you trying to get forgiven for?" she almost demands from him. Fina knows how to tick him off as she taunts him about everything that has happened to him. "You ditched your best friend, your comrades ditched you, and you'll live as the man who killed his lover from now on, forever. Stop talking, please." In one swift move, Luke stabs her right through the heart, and as much as the move shocked her, all Fina could say before she died was that she'll be waiting in hell for him. With her finally dead, Luke looks at her dead body and flashes a menacing grin, saying he'll be there soon. "But first, I've got to thank my dear best friend for his oh-so-gracious favor." And with that, he went out into the night. Meanwhile, his best friend is a bit confused at the moment. "A medal, sir?" he asks General Kaitos. The latter looks pleased as he explains that the mayor of Lake Mikasa insists the city's heroes receive a medal. Plus, the general doesn't see any reason why Nell and the others should reject it, insisting they accept it instead. This time, the girl chimed in and told the general that they hadn't finished cleaning the villa. Oh, that. The general has actually hired others to do that so the foursome can rest pretty easily. "After all, we can't have the city's heroes doing housework, can we?" General Kaitos said. There isn't much to contest for that, so General Kaitos stood and was about to leave. But not before informing them of the banquet that would also take place. He suggests that Nell and the girls should let loose for once. And with that, he left Nell and the girls to their own devices. A medal, huh? Asuka has mixed feelings about this, a sentiment Milialia shared, knowing how the town took a lot of damage. "Even so, we protected over 1,000 lives and livelihoods," Meisha adds, trying to turn their mood around. Rather than mourn those they couldn't save, Meisha believes it's more important to celebrate those they did. Nell notes how this is so very cleric-like, no, Meisha-like encouragement. Suddenly, she reverts to her eternally hungry self, excited at the thought of attending the banquet. It's a feast, and they're for sure going to eat meat. Nell had to remind her that they're not starved individuals. Ultimately, they attended the banquet, and for once, Nell looked dashing all suited up with his hair brushed back. He feels a little shy because he never expected the townsfolk would throw such a grand banquet and even lend clothes for them. General Kaitos tells him up front that their usual shabby getup won't do for a ceremony like this. Suddenly, the general is all over him, singing praises at how Nell is exceptional, able to repel the Sawagan with just a few. Even his officers couldn't do that. Nell just kept quiet and took the general's compliments, seeing how the older man must have had a lot to drink. It had already been the 3rd time since he told Nell that. Still, at least the general also remembers the girls. Speaking of, where are they? Nell points to where the trio is, and just like him, they're all dressed to the nines. The general finds them all beautiful and sees how it's a good thing that they didn't refuse the dresses. Looking at them all dolled up, Nell can't help but get teary-eyed, because he feels like a mother watching her daughter on their wedding day. Lately, all they've been tackling are grim missions, so just for today, he wants them to act their age with kids their age. Suddenly, a bald man joins Nell and the general, asking the former if he wants to drink with him. But this bald man, who's actually the mayor, notices the general standing right there. Seeing the two are a bit tipsy, It dawned upon Nell how he's tasked with entertaining multiple drunk uncles tonight. Like the general, the mayor is really impressed with how Nell managed to beat the Sahuagin with just a few men. Our MC makes it clear this time that the biggest factor in their victory was that it was a defensive fight. The townsfolk who loved their home and fought to the very end also played a big factor, so Nell believes his contribution to the whole thing was pretty small. The mayor slaps his back for being so humble, making him spew his drink out. Well, in his mind, Nell's not really humble. He knows it's only natural to want to protect what you love. It's part of being human. Whether it's for the city or your family, even if you hate fighting, you go all in. Nell just made use of that human nature. Any capable office or staffer under General Kitos could have done the same. Crap. All this drinking just made Nell go into analysis mode. Fortunately, General Kaido speaks again and pulls him out of his thoughts, saying that it's because of Nell and those hero eggs that the trio get to grow free. The mayor noticed that Nell hasn't eaten anything yet, asking if he's not just going to spend the night drinking. Yes, I'll eat. With that, our MC hurries to the table, thinking about how he almost ended the night on booze alone. Rather than drinking, he was just holding a glass and greeting people. As soon as he takes a bite of the meat, his expression changes. This is delicious. This dish is not just quality meat, there's a tang in the sauce, and what's that? Onion and wine? This plate proves that the world runs on meat. He was shaking with excitement, thinking how he wished he could take it home. General Kaidos appears by his side, saying that once things settle, he should head back to Galia. There was seriousness in the older man's tone as he relayed to Nell that someone had broken into the guild infirmary and murdered a patient. The victim was a woman adventurer named Fina. Wait, did he just say Fina? Luke's Fina? With her body like that, she could never return to adventuring. Even normal life would be pretty hard on her. She'd paid more than enough already. Couldn't Luke even forgive her? Speaking of Luke, somewhere in the city, trouble is brewing in a guild elsewhere. What the hell did you just say? An intimidating guy asked the man who just stormed into their vicinity. I said, hand me the head seat of this bandit outfit, Luke demands. The other guys are starting to panic, but the bald man refuses to bend to his demands. And how dare this man come storming in here alone? He and a few others dash straight to Luke, but with just one swift motion, he cut the bald man's head off straight from his shoulders. They can't believe Luke just sent one of their men's heads rolling. So this is the level of a bandit chief, Luke says. He steps on the man's dead body, asking if they want to serve under him or die. Nell is back at the guild, and right now Jennifer hands him their rewards. She thanks him for completing the merchant escort, seeing how they never imagined that the merchant group was plotting to attack women adventurers. With that said, Jennifer tells Nell that the guild accepts oversight responsibility this time, so on top of the fee, they also added additional money for damages. Through her smiling facade, Nell already knows she had this lined up. From the looks of it, Jennifer likely intended to smash those criminals from the start, and the victims must have come to her. But the thing is, the guild can't very well trap merchants on suspicion alone, so they put the arrow on them. Well, what choice did Nell have? So he decides to just go with the guild's storyline. But more importantly, there's something Nell wants to know. About Fina, was it Luke? She asks Jennifer in a quiet voice. Jennifer tells him that the culprit can't be stated for certain since there's no proof. However, the body suggests a highly skilled killer, and that there were no signs she resisted. Nell asks if there's any trail after, but Jennifer shakes her head no. However, she tells him there is one thing. There's a bandit organization that runs the underworld, whose boss was just replaced. Does Jennifer think that the new boss is Luke? What made her think that? Unfortunately, she doesn't have solid proof, just a woman's intuition. Intuition? But then again, when it's a saint's intuition, one simply does not shrug it off. With that said, Nell says he'll just keep that in mind as he joins the girls. Back at the Hope Shack, Nell looks at the unfamiliar face looking up to him. Do cats multiply? He asks rhetorically. Asuka grabs the new cat and says, this one is a girl. Nell actually knows it's a girl, so he grabs their own cat, scolding him for being such a lecherous Tom. With a roof over its head, food, and water, the Hope Shack is already a castle to this cat, and a castle's lonely just by being itself. Can we please keep her? The girls all turn to Nell with puppy dog eyes, and of course, how can he say no to that? All right, we won't kick her out. They can keep her as long as they tidy up around the house, making the girls groan. Cleaning again? Nell turns and tells them they should do it right while he's out. Huh? So where is he going then? Ned just tells her that he has something he needs to do. Are you covering those three's debts? Are you for real, kid? An intimidating man looms over Nell. The former explains that they lend at 10% monthly interest. If he can't keep up with that, he'll either be food in the sea or undergo forced labor underground. The man then moves to massage his shoulders, telling Nell to cough it up to the last coin. At least that was his imagination of what the girl's creditor looked like. He didn't expect the person to be a nice-looking old lady sitting before him. Nell bows his head and apologizes for introducing himself late, saying he's the one who leads the girl's clan. So you're like their mother. Well, it looks like the Grand Dame is in the loop with what the girls call him, huh? Anyway, she asks what brings him to her home today. Nell begins by saying what he knows. I heard you fronted the cost of their gear. The clan should cover gear, so may the clan repay the loan, he asks her directly. The latter thinks that it's a bit overprotective, and even Nell thinks so too. He tells her that the clan will cover it this one time, since when they went to a resort just recently, it pained him to see that the girls didn't buy clothes for themselves because they still have debt. Besides, without this lady creditor, the girls would still be fighting recklessly, like when they first met. The trio only managed to live through it with proper gear, but without it, Asuka would have been dead long ago, and the backline soon after her. Nell owes this lady that much for preventing the girls' deaths. The lady, Lady Mary, gets up from her seat and tells Nell not to spoil them too much. He looks at her quizzically while she looks for the promissory note. Then, when she finally found it, Lady Mary tore it to pieces. Huh? Nell's eyes widen, and before he can ask, she puts a pouch on the table, saying it's the money the girls have been depositing with her. Wait, what? Does she mean she has been saving their payments all this time? Nell asks, why? And to that she smiles. If I don't force them to save, they'll spend it. Those girls are like that. Heh, even Nell can't deny that they have that habit. Still, what a warm-hearted lady she is, showing such kindness to 3 orphans. Nell bows and takes the pouch, thinking about how he wishes he had a mother like her. He tells her that he'll make sure the money helps the girls. And there's nothing better Lady Mary would want to see, even calling him Mama Lionel as they shook hands. Well, that's that. The errand's finally done. Nell is out in the open again, thinking that he'll just swing by the guild for a job and then head home. Just then, a kid bumps into him, secretly stealing his wallet. The kid apologizes and is about to excuse themselves when Nell locks their elbow, making them cry out in pain. As it turns out, this kid is a girl. What the hell was that for? She asks him, teary-eyed and nursing her elbow. Well, that's Nell's line. Just what the hell was she doing, pickpocketing adventurers' thin pockets? But the girl is too stubborn to admit that she's wrong, saying it's the old man's fault for zoning out. Nell already has his back turned to her, telling her to go. He adds that if anything comes up, she can come find him at the Adventurers Guild, then walks away. Now left to her own devices, the girl lets out a heavy sigh. What a day! But that's when she realizes something. Her wallet is missing. It's gone. Lionel secretly fished it back then. The girl runs straight to the guild, slamming the door open as she demands, Lionel! The latter is happy seeing how the girl discovered the crap he pulled just then. As if that's not bad enough, he starts to tease her, saying he'll buy her some tea. After all, he's got a little windfall right there, tossing the girl's wallet around, much to his annoyance. That's when Jennifer decides to step in, telling Nell not to tease her too much. Okay, fine till Nell gets serious. You did have business with me, right? Steal my wallet, return it, then ask for a favor. That was the plan, wasn't it? The girl is surprised while he continues that if she were just an ordinary pickpocket, she wouldn't go around carrying her own wallet. And even if she did, then the girl would give up if someone stole it, since coming to the guild to get it back risks getting hauled by the guard. And yet here she was, waltzing it, grabbing it back. And throughout the whole conversation, she's still here. This just means she's got business with Nell. Heck, she even knew his name. Well, of course she knows him. He's the rare strategist who took a 2-orphan startup and made it top tier in under 10 years. So it's already a given that it won't be easy to outfox him. Frankly, he wasn't prepared to receive such praise, saying, "You're overselling me," to the girl. That's when she uttered the name of the clan, Golden Silkworm Butterfly. She even called him of Golden Silkworm, before correcting herself and changing it into Lionel of Hope. She finally introduces herself as Meg, a member of the Thieves Guild. She also apologized for the stunt she pulled earlier, as she said, "The Thieves Guild, huh? They're not officially sanctioned, but they're viewed as a necessary evil that the authorities ignore. After all, the guild keeps petty crime from exploding and scoops street kids into pickpocketing or sex work. The latter may sound awful, but it's better than freezing to death in the gutter. Simply put, it's just another way to live, however twisted. In practice, they save more lives than a noble's whims. And this girl is one of the guild's members. You can beat him, right, Luke, the new boss of Hawkfang? She asks, making Nell's eyes widen with shock. Nell pales. Luke is a bandit now? And he's not just any bandit, he's also the boss of Hawkfang? Meg continues that their guild has been a mess ever since Luke took the throne. According to her, he's unilaterally waiving protection fees and wiping out prostitutes' debts on his own. Because of that, shops in Hawkfang Turf are undercutting prices. Customers all flock there, and other syndicate shops are ghost towns now. If that were the case, Nell asks her why not punish Luke instead. Meg replies that they already tried that, but everyone got taken down. Suddenly, she clings to him, saying, "The only one who can beat him is you, the guy who knows him from the inside out." But Nell is not really thrilled by this idea. Even if she says that the Adventurer Guild sticking its nose in the Thieves Guild's infighting just spells trouble. It's bad enough that Luke seized the throne, but his being the spark of all of this as the former Golden Silkworm leader just makes it worse. He's way too infamous. Nell asks Jennifer for her opinion, and she tells him that she can't decide that by herself. Nell ponders over this predicament for a bit. Unless there's a pact between guilds, the adventurers stepping in so suddenly make it look like a turf invasion no matter how hard he thinks about it. Jennifer speaks again saying, "But tracking the killer of the adventurer Fina is the Adventurers Guild's job." As she said that, she drafted a request showing him the official paperwork for it. "Will you take the request, Lionel?" She hands it to him, saying they were chasing the culprit behind Fina's murder and just happened to stumble into a gang war. There, they also learned that one of the suspects was the ex-Golden Silkworm captain. My, would you look at that? What a coincidence. Everything fell together so nicely. Nell shows the request to Meg, saying how there's a woman from the Thieves Guild who just happened to be there. And so, he would like to buy fresh intel from her, asking Meg if she has any leads. The latter grins and tells them that her information is not cheap, but both she and Nell already know that. Nell walks away, promising to set the guild back to how it was. Those were pretty big words, but later that night, when Nell was by himself, he couldn't help but mull over everything. Looking at the fire he just made, even he admits to himself that the one who wants everything to go back the way it was might be him. If Luke were living happily somewhere far away, he figured that would be fine, and his grudge about being expelled twice would be whatever on his end. With Luke imprisoned, Nell thought the story had ended. That's what he believed. Taking all this into consideration, he thinks that maybe asking General Kaitos for amnesty was a mistake. Luke committed murder and raised a new power in the underworld. If this infighting keeps growing, it won't stay internal, and it might become Luke's faction versus the Adventurer Guild. At worst, the chaos will spiral into Galia, and if it does, the kingdom will send regular troops to suppress and seize Galia under the pretext of maintaining order. Frankly, Nell doesn't really care about noble balances, but civil war is another matter. If that happens, then inevitably more orphans like him and Luke will be born, and that's the one thing he needs to prevent. Looking up at the stars and the night sky, Nell remembers how Luke always said the same thing. Cut to the next panel. A fist lands squarely into a kid's cheek, and yes, that's Fetus Nell. Opposite him, we have Fetus Luke, who is cursing the hell out of him. "Cutting in line again and always doing it when it's my turn. What's your deal?" Luke demands. But Nell remains slumped on the ground, with Luke trying to wring some answers out of him, only for the latter to fall face first in the dirt. His shoelaces are tied together. Nell is already up on his feet, telling him that he was so focused on felling the horse that he didn't even notice his own footing. "Boar brain," Nell teases the other. "And cutting in line? Please." Nell blames it on Luke, seeing how the other is always spaced out, so that's on him. This ticked off Luke pretty badly, because how come Nell's acting like he's above him when he was just picked up a day earlier from him? The hierarchy should be clear, right? Is Nell's only answer. To that, Luke angrily points out that there's no hierarchy in an orphanage. The two square up again as Nell continues to fire back, calling Luke a jungle king who's always playing big boss this time. They were so wrapped up in each other that they didn't notice the older lady approaching them. By the time they did, it was already too late. "If you two fight again, it's no dinner for you both. You understand?" Later that night, Luke lies awake, pissed as hell because he's so hungry he can't sleep. To his surprise, someone put a loaf of bread on his chest. It was Nell. The latter grins, telling Luke to keep his voice down unless he wants them to get caught. Luke sits up, asking what this was, and Nell explains that he got it because he's on good terms with the cafeteria lady. But that wasn't what Luke wanted to know. "Why give it to me? You could eat it yourself." To his shock again, Nell admits that he was also at fault, and if Luke passes out like last time, it would only make Nell feel lousy. "You really pay attention, huh?" the latter asks. But Luke knows Nell doesn't just pay attention to him. He notices how the other is always looking around, saying the right thing and solving the problem. "That's you too," Nell counters. It wasn't lost to him how Luke is always looking after the younger ones and is the first to run over and calm them down when they cry. To that, Luke says it's because he just wants to help people who are in trouble. With a determined look, he tells Nell that he's not just giving up because he's an orphan, vowing that one day he'll be a first-rate adventurer and make the one who looked down upon them eat their words. "I want to help kids in trouble all over the world," Luke proudly proclaims. Back to the present, Nell stares at his own reflection in the dagger. Maybe it's the alcohol, but all he does is keep recalling the past. If he couldn't even foresee this as a sorry excuse for a strategist, then at least he needs to take responsibility for unleashing the beast that Luke had become. He remembers how they always ended their fights in a draw, making him wonder if he can actually win against him. They're both swordsmen, but raw power and speed are Luke's edge. For him, sure, he has foresight and a tactical eye, but this isn't like their usual childhood tussle. Nell mutters to himself about how he needs to bring Luke down, even if it means stabbing each other dead. That's not okay. He hears a voice from the window. He turns to see the girls looking at him with worry etched on their faces. Nell remains calm, saying how he thought they were asleep, but Asuka is already at it. She noticed how he's been acting weird since he got back, so she was worried he was cheating and came to check. Did she really say cheating? To his shock, she jumps off the window and lands straight into his arms while she continues. You're muttering with that serious face. What kind of daughter just sits and watches when her mom says she's risking her life? There's no way we're just watching. Asuka clings to him, telling Nell that he should talk to them. We're your party, remember? Don't decide it all by yourself. She starts getting teary-eyed, hitting his chest as she practically begs him not to treat them like kids and leave them out of this problem. As if Nell could say no to that. Alright, he got it. He apologizes and begins by saying, the truth is, there's something I need to ask you all, since the girls insisted on getting involved. Nell took the liberty of sharing his predicament with them, and they listened with worry and intent. After everything is said, the first words Asuka says are, "It's that important? Why did you keep it to yourself until now?" In his defense, this is personal, and Nell points out that he couldn't drag them into this. To that, Asuka reminds him of what he told them before, that to let them perform, the clan should handle their gear. Following this logic, it's only right that the clan should solve the members' problems together. Additionally, keeping their motivation up is also the clan's responsibility. Huh? Isn't that a bit of a reach? But Asuka and the others are never ones to think in the usual ways. Nell can only sigh because he never expected his own line to be thrown back at his face. On the inside, though, he feels so touched to be blessed by daughters who are far too good for him. Anyway, back to important matters, Asuka asks how they plan to find the bandits' hideout. To that, Nell already has an idea how. Cut to the Thieves Guild, Meg frowns. So, you brought a whole crowd? She asks Nell while looking at the three girls before her. Despite her demeanor, the three girls went ahead and crowded Meg, introducing themselves at the same time, putting too much pressure on the former. Meg had to literally back them off, as she tells Nell that they have no idea how many are waiting. So yeah, the more heads the better, but the den is located deep in the slums. Walk in like it's a field trip, and you'll be ringed by assassins fast, she says. But Asuka and the others remain unfazed. They know, and that's exactly why they're making a big show of it. In the end, Meg can't help but also break out into a smile, saying, "You folks really fit the name Hope perfectly. Alright, now that everything is settled, Hope team, roll out." Later that night, Nell and Meg find themselves in front of an abandoned mansion. According to the latter, the place was supposedly a noble's manor ages ago, but it has now turned into a slum. Nell glances at the girls and they all nod in unison. He breaks the door down with a kick. "Pardon the intrusion," he tells his old friend, who only welcomes him, already standing and waiting for him. Nell warns the girls to keep their guard up, but Luke assures them that he's alone. Nell is puzzled by this, but he didn't have the time to ask, seeing how Luke already has his hand on his sword. The latter throws his scabbard away, telling Nell they should settle this right now. On the other hand, Asuka offers to hold Nell's scabbard for him, which he gratefully accepts. In the old Night Tales, it is said that the sword is life, and the scabbard is where life returns. So entrusting you with a scabbard means, I will surely come back. In contrast, Luke threw his scabbard away, meaning he abandoned his place to return to. An instep, and suddenly there was a loud clanging of swords as the two men exchanged blows. After the initial attack, both backed away, and Luke took this time to ask his friend a question. Why did Nell look so surprised when he walked in? Nell answers that it's because Luke didn't have an entourage and goes on to say how word got around that Luke seized a gang. Luke chuckles ironically because yeah, he did have some at first, but because they couldn't abide by his policy, they left. So that's what happened. Nell finally understood his friend's plan. Luke defied the Thieves Guild's line on purpose, stirred up trouble to clear the crowd, and got word to the well-informed guild so someone would call Nell. Even Nell has to admit that this was a nice setup done by his friend, and Luke is more than happy to receive such praise from a strategist. A strategist moves assuming the worst, isn't that what you said? Luke tells him. The latter goes on the offense while Nell evades his direct attack by leaping. Exactly, you went that far just to see me. Nell fires back and this time goes on the offense. But Luke steps aside, easily evading him as he continues that he did that out of love. Hard pass, was Nell's answer as their swords clashed again. Crap. This back and forth between them is getting ridiculous. He can feel the exhaustion creeping in, and as if on cue, Luke's thrust nicks Nell's arm. In turn, our hero swings his blade and cuts Luke's cheek to even it out. Flashback to when they were younger. Luke asks Nell what his gift was again. Strategist, the latter answers. Luke's not too surprised since a gift like that suits a brain-heavy guy like Nell. This time it was Nell's turn to ask what Luke's gift is, and that's when the latter answers that it's hero. They were quiet for a beat before Luke asked if the other remembered what Luke said before, about becoming first-rate someday. And of course Nell remembers. Let's be adventurers, Luke said. I'm no good with complicated stuff, so having someone like you would be solid. Let's fix the world together. At least that's what the past Luke said. Because now the two are busy swinging their swords. Just when Nell was about to land a clean hit, Luke kicks him in the stomach, causing the former to double over, coughing blood. You didn't expect a kick, did you? Luke asks before swinging his sword again at Nell. Our MC manages to get out of the way as he tells Luke that's not a swordsman's way. Says the strategist who doesn't pick his method? Luke claps back. He smiles, telling his old friend that he shouldn't start calling him dirty now. Nell, on the other hand, can barely stand, still trying to gain his footing from his ex-best friend's attack. I won't, was Nell's answer. He wipes the blood off his mouth, grinning as he tells Luke that he's the one who's way dirtier. Before he could finish his sentence, Misha cast long-range heal on him, followed by Milialia's magic imbue, instantly boosting Nell's HP and health. Luke grits his teeth. Filthy even, that's 3-on-1! But another voice joins the conversation. It's not 3-on-1, it's 4-on-1! Asuka comes in from behind with a swing, forcing Luke to block her attack. This time, both Nell and Asuka fight in tandem as Luke is left to deal with two opponents. Nell uses this chance to take a swing at him with more force than usual, sending him back as he could only curse their lot. But the girls firmly stand by Nell's side. If he's getting his hands dirty, we'll gladly get dirty too, because we're comrades. Flashback to the foursome's open forum a while earlier. Asuka asks if it's wrong to fight together. Well, what Nell had in mind was to have the girls clear the way for him and challenge Luke to a duel in the meantime. Before he could finish sharing his plan, Milialia suggested a better plan. We wipe out his goons and take Luke down together. Any problem with that? The way she said it so directly left Nell agreeing to her without room for argument. That's when Misha stepped in and told him he overthinks things. She takes his hand, telling him that they're comrades, 4 as 1. That encouraged him to be more open to them. Okay, so here's the plan. Nell will make it look like he's hung up on a duel to lower his enemy's guard, and then, on his signal, they dogpile him. That's it, back to the present. Nell and Asuka's dual swordsmanship continues to give Luke a hard time, leaving him with no choice but to defend and evade. He knows how restricting dodging indoors is, so the moment he notices the door, Luke bolts right through it. Nell didn't see this coming, instructing the girls to go after him because if Luke reaches the streets, then it's over. You're not getting away, Monobolt! Milialia fires her attack on Luke's thigh, causing him to slow down and hop in pain. This was the only chance Asuka needed as she cut off Luke's right arm in one fell swoop. As the latter sees his arm fall to the ground, he thinks about how he has seen this view before. He sees Nell hiding his face, thrusting his sword directly into Luke's body. Right, it's the same thing I did to Luke thought. Luke coughs up blood and slumps over Nell's shoulder, asking his ex-best friend where they went wrong. Nell, on the other hand, asks him what he should carve on his marker. Luke wobbles over, saying, I don't need one, a grave or whatever, finally collapsing on the ground with his eyes open. Dead. Nell reaches over and closes the latter's eyes and stares at the moon. The two were raised together almost from birth and have chased dreams with his one and only friend. Nell wonders if this is where it really ends, and like Luke, he also asks where they truly went wrong. He was muttering to himself, what am I even doing? When Asuka appeared and hugged him, assuring him that she was right there. She grounds him, calling his name aloud when they're suddenly joined by Milialia, and a moment after, Misha appears with a smile as well as she takes his hand. While the three of them are gathered over Nell, Meg awkwardly adds that she's also there for what it's worth. Unfortunately, the three girls dissed her, saying she's totally not involved. They were kidding, of course. They start laughing at how Meg starts to panic, and even Nell smiles at their antics. After a while, Nell suggests they head back now since they have to hand post-mission reports to the church and the guild. Back at the Adventurers Guild, Jennifer commends them for a job well done. That finally puts an end to Fina's killer. With that said, peace should hold, for now. Nell thinks so too, and they can probably take it easy with some routine hunts for a while. But his question is, why is Meg still at the Adventurers Guild? She laughs awkwardly because here's a funny story. I got kicked out of the guild, she says while scratching her head. The other three girls were shocked, asking why that happened. They only managed to beat Luke because of Meg after all, and that's where the trouble is actually. From their side, I borrowed the Adventurers Guild and settled it on my own, so the Thieves Guild lost major face, she explained. Nell finished the story, adding that the guild couldn't very well punish Meg, seeing how she helped fix the problem. You see, in the underworld, you never really get clean. And if someone with shadow intel bolts, assassins will be sent. Nell thinks that if Meg slipped out of that tangle with no strings, then maybe a Thieves Guild executive did her a kindness. Well, since Meg finally got out and she doesn't want to live a thief's life anymore, she shyly asks them to let her join Hope. Nell sees no problem with that, but first things first. What was her gift and job? Because if she's going to be an adventurer, she will need to register with the guild. Gift? What's that? She asks. The foursome could only give her a unified "ha?" In response, eyes wide with shock. Gift? Job? What even is that? Meg asks in confusion. Naturally, the girls blew up, especially Asuka. A job is that thing, you know? You pick it from your gift and then the gift goes whoosh from the supreme god, as if that kind of explanation helped Meg understand what those are any better. Nell intervenes and grabs Asuka's head. Don't explain with noise and hype, you'll just confuse her more, he says. This time he's the one who explains. Simply put, a gift is the divine revelation individuals get at the age 10 blessing rite. To help her understand it better, he uses himself as an example. Nell shares that his gift is strategist. He continues that from there, one will choose their job, so in Nell's case, since his gift is a strategist, he wants to become an adventurer. So, for a job, he went with a swordsman, that kind of thing. Meg looks down, feeling ashamed because hearing all that just made her realize that she didn't know a thing about normal surface world stuff. This also makes Nell realize how orphans like them get blessed, while the Thieves Guild really treated kids as tools as far as they could. The threesome looks at her with so much pity in their eyes, then proceeds to hug her at the same time. Don't worry, Meg, we'll get your life back. We'll help you. God's grace will pour upon you, they comfort her. So just like that, the 5 of them went straight to church. At least that helped Meg breathe a little because she really thought the girls were about to take her virtue right then and there. Meanwhile, Nell talks to the priest asking if the older man can perform the rite. Thankfully, the priest is willing to do so given how he and Misha donate faithfully to the church. Our MC can only smile because, in all honesty, Misha did more than him, and he has only given a little ever since that day he killed Luke. The priest shares that they also see their fair share of cases like Meg, where the kids grow up without a blessing. With that, he calls upon her to get herself prepared. She starts to panic, blabbering about how she doesn't know the manners or prayers or anything, but the older man assures her that it's fine. Misha steps in and volunteers to teach Meg the prayers. Asuka also assures her that there's no need to be nervous, they're here with her. To help her feel better, she shared how Milialia was so nervous at her ceremony back then that she stepped with her right hand and right foot together. Of course, Milialia tries to save face, asking when that happened, leaving the girls laughing together. Nell looks at them, most especially glad for Meg. Just like what the girls said, they will take her life back step by step. They put a veil over her head while Misha teaches Meg the prayer. From there, the priest motions her to head to the aisle and kneel in front of the altar. The older man starts praying over her while Meg clasps her hands in prayer. And then suddenly, a ray of light shines down upon her. Meg starts crying as she tells them she heard God's voice for the first time. After the ceremony, Asuka asks Meg what her gift was. Something like Switchfoot, maybe? She says. Nell chimes in and tells her that it's a talent specialized for speed. Well, now that makes sense. Meg finally understands why she was better at stealing than kids her age. Next, they head back to the guild to do the necessary paperwork. Jennifer hands her the paper and advises that she list her job as scout since thief or pickpocket sounds bad on paper. After that, she says they should proceed with her adventurer registration by filling out the form in her hand. Ah, right, I can't read or write, Meg admits to them, embarrassed. Nell is quick to jump in and verify the information with her first. He points to the paper as he points out all her information, like her name, age, gift, job, and affiliation. With that, it's done. So I'm part of Hope now, she proclaims. She also apologizes for causing them trouble and even making Nell write for her. In a quiet voice, he assures her that there's nothing for Meg to feel bad about. Our MC has his brows furrowed in anger, saying, whatever their reasons, they feed orphans, so I thought the Thieves Guild folks were a bit more decent. And yet they teach Meg nothing to live in a normal society and make tools perfect for keeping them penned for life. Just thinking about that pisses Nell off, making him glare unintentionally. Milialia had to tell him that he's making a scary face right now. But instead of getting scared, she smiles because she knows this is just one of Nell's many virtues, getting angry for someone else's sake. Nell tries to downplay it, saying, isn't it few, not many? I don't have that many good points. Milialia starts listing down all his good traits. Dependable to a fault, kind, and he never abandons people in trouble. Then she taps Asuka as she also lists more. You're a great cook and a neat freak. The household budget is safe in your hands. Meisha also adds, you treat everyone the same and you finish what you decide to do. Even Jennifer has some good things to say about him, sharing how Nell works fast and precisely. Plus, she also knows he has a sharp mind and he's as strong as an ox. All the girls crowd around him telling Nell that he's a prime catch. Being praised like this is something Nell hasn't experienced before, and like any embarrassed individual, he runs off, not knowing how to take a compliment. He hides in the other room, fanning himself because those girls just keep on piling the embarrassing stuff. From where he's standing, he tells them that tonight will be Meg's welcome party. We'll go buy whatever ingredients we're short on later. Jennifer can't help but laugh because this just shows he really is their mom. Later that night at the Hope Shack, the fivesome gives a cheers to Meg, the newest member of the clan. Nell prepared a feast for tonight, urging Meg to eat a lot. But the girl is a bit too overwhelmed by the quantity of meat at their dinner table. Meat, meat, meat. I kinda want veggies too, she mutters. Nell can only laugh sarcastically. As if we'd have that, it's all meat, bread, and booze. By the way, Neldon, Meg says, "What's a Neldon? Is that a new monster?" he asks in turn, but Meg ignores it and follows up with, "What do I do here?" Nell tells her that her job is scouting. It's mainly to find jobs in town that pay well and raise their reputation. She thinks about it, but he goes ahead and informs her that they'll first practice by gathering intel at the guild together. Once she gets the hang of it, Meg can do it outside the guild too. That alone excites her, promising she'll get them big-time gigs in the future. Speaking of big-time, so is she referring to cracking the massive Lacris labyrinth? She laughs, boasting about how she's quite famous in the Thieves Guild. After all, she knows of the giant dungeon 100 floors underground that the top clans are still exploring. Meanwhile, somewhere in the said dungeon, a chimera suddenly appeared and attacked the adventurers. The others tell the remaining adventurers to fall back, clamoring and in panic because wasn't this supposed to be a simple recon? Contact the guild now, hasn't this gone too far? It's a new day at the guild where Nell and Meg stand at the bulletin board intently, and that's about the only thing they can do. Based on the job requests, or lack thereof, there aren't many jobs available now. Even Meg feels a little disappointed, but hey, it's a first-come, first-served basis out here. And just when she finally got used to things too. But Nell knows that's not the only reason. It must be because of the rumor from half a month ago. "It's not just a rumor," Jennifer corrects him. Meg brightens up when she sees her. On the other hand, Jennifer is also happy to see that she's training her intel gathering skills again today. Such a hard worker, this one. The two butter up to each other until Nell calls Meg. Without any preamble, he tells her that when Jennifer butters up to someone like this, it's usually a prelude to a killer assignment. "Ignore her," while Meg gasps and goes, "So this is the infamous Dark Jennifer." The topic of their conversation had to glare at Nell, demanding to know what kind of info he feeds to Meg. Well, he's not wrong though, as Jennifer admits that Nell is right, so she formally breaks the bad news to them. A chimera is in the Lacris labyrinth. Nell heard that a pretty fearsome monster had settled there, but he didn't expect this monster to be a nasty one. Jennifer adds that that's not the only problem. You see, an elite guild went exploring the levels below where the monster settled. Now their only escape route has been cut off and they can't return to the surface. According to her, 5 top-tier teams moved in to slay the chimera, but every one of them has failed. As a result, all the adventurers who value their own skins are taking the much safer jobs instead of the chimera one. Can't say we blame them. The chimera is said to have a goat's head that fires magic, a lion's head that bites through rock, and a dragon's head that breathes fire. Plus, it also has a snake tail with lethal poison. Anyone who'd want to fight that all in one package of a monster is probably nuts. "Meg," she says aloud. And that's exactly the brand of crazy Nell is, checking and signing the document, seeing that he filled out all the signatures. The jokes really do write themselves, no? Meg starts yelling at him, asking him how he can decide this on his own. "Are you trying to die?" But Nell has 4 daughters to feed, and the other jobs just won't cut it. Spoken like a true mom. The labyrinth has been sealed for half a month, and the trapped teams are weakening without resupply. But that doesn't mean Meg's out here to martyr herself on some dumb justice kick. Well, Nell thinks the same. Still, even when Jennifer pushes brutal gigs upon them, she gauges their skill and won't hand them what they can't clear. "Besides, I'm not alone, I've got 4 reliable partners," Nell says. With a smile, he adds how the 3 have grown remarkably, and there's also the promising new rookie with a lot of potential. That shut Meg up, leaving her blushing as she asks Jennifer if Nell is always like this. "He's a total gift charmer, huh?" Jennifer sighs because what makes this scary is that Nell doesn't even notice he's like this. Just like that, the 5-some head to Lacris labyrinth. Meg hides on the corner as a giant mutant rat stands on its hind legs on guard. She throws a ball-like item at it, then heads back to join the group. She informs them that there are 2 poison rats in the back room. "They didn't notice, so I rolled in poison bait." Nell turns to Milialia, instructing her to blanket the room with magic bolts and not to bother aiming. Soon the rats are on the ground, paralyzed. As Nell continues that after a 1-beat delay, he and Asuka will rush in. "Magic bolt," Milialia casts. The attack hits the rat head-on, with Nell moving in along with Asuka. Just like that, they took 2 poison rats down without a hitch. "Phew, that was surprisingly easy," Asuka claims, so Nell had to correct her that they were just finishing them off. Milialia thanks Meg because nobody got hurt, thanks to her scouting. Meisha feels disappointed that she didn't get to do much, but that's also a good thing. Nell, on the other hand, has his eyes forward. Let's keep pushing to the target floor. They do as he commanded, and fast forward later, Meg cuts off the mana stone of their nth poison rat. This has to be the 100th mana stone now. Still, do dungeons spawn this many mobs? Nell answers that this density is abnormal. He relays how he faced something like this during his golden silkworm days, but it wasn't this hard. But Meg's attention is on the mana stone she's holding. With how many stones are dropping, she had to admit that this might be more efficient than stealing after all. "That's right, war is super efficient, Meg," Asuka happily chirps. She goes on to add that if Meg works hard, she can get some neat goodies like this, her magic sword. Asuka proudly tells her that she got it from General Kaidos after crushing the rebels. This got Meg all fired up, wanting to have something like that too. "Nell, Mom, are we close?" Milialia asks. If memory serves him right, Nell thinks so, it's just a little farther ahead. They should be able to see the Grand Hall's doors soon. She asks if there are more monsters because of the Chimera, and he says he's not sure, but that seems logical. A powerhouse moved into the 10th floor, so that made the guys in the upper floors bolder. But something about that doesn't sit right, Nell adds. Meisha thinks that maybe the cause and effect are reversed, making both Milialia and Nell turn to her. Like a mother pushing a baby in a pram. How is that a sound explanation for all of this? So is she saying that if there are no parents, there won't be a baby? Milialia also had to clarify if this is like the effect coming before the cause or something. Like the chicken and egg situation, right? Nell Karate chops Meisha in the head and scolds her. This is no time for riddles. He still ponders about it, saying that it's not a case where the monsters got stronger because the Chimera appeared, but the Chimera just happened to be included among the already amped mobs. If that's the case, then it's a whole load of trouble. A moment later, they came upon a grand double door that made them wonder if this was some kind of omen or something else entirely. Just then, Milialia and Meg feel a heavy presence around them. They know the Chimera is looking at them. They've already been spotted right away. "So it's already in battle stance, huh?" Nell says without any fear. Being the logical one, he points out that as long as they know it's coming, then they've got options. He and Asuka will charge in first to disrupt it. The moment there's an opening, Milialia will take out one of its heads with magic. While recovering, Meg blinds, Meisha binds, and they finish as usual. With that, they open the door to the Grand Hall. "Move out!" The dragon head instantly breathes fire at them, which the two evade. As soon as they got their footing, Nell instructed Asuka to flank right. She did as he commanded while he ran the other way, with each head on the side following them as they ran. "Ice Lance!" Milialia aims her attack at the lion's head, stabbing its head and body, leaving the whole creature howling in pain. Just then, knives came flying and struck both the serpent's and the goat's eyes, this time making both heads screech. Her switchfoot came in handy as she snickers, telling the monster how they got a little scratch on their eye. She high-fives Meisha, who's next in line. Now the cleric gets ready. "At last, it's my time to shine," says Meisha, conjuring magical chains as she says so. Meisha casts chains of restraint on the Chimera, binding the monster, while Asuka uses this chance to attack its goat head. As soon as she lands, the monster's snakehead goes after her from behind, only for Nell to cut its head off in one go. Unfortunately, Meisha's chains start to break as she gives a heads up that they have 3 more seconds before the monster becomes loose. Both Asuka and Nell are busy dealing with the monster's lion paw that keeps trying to stomp them, while Milialia casts Ice Lance to impale the beast. As soon as the ice forms, it breaks and sends debris of ice that hits the monster's head, making it distracted. The dragon head slips, and in a desperate attempt to counter, it is about to unleash its fiery breath. Too bad for the creature. Meg quickly impales its snout to the ground, preventing it from directing its attack at them. She tries to do more damage, but the dragon head has a pretty tough neck. With its snout impaled, the dragon couldn't help but implode the attack within itself, causing a massive explosion. "This is our chance. Press the attack," yells Nell. With the dragon head gone, Nell and Asuka work in tandem to take down the goat head this time. The lion's paw manages to take a swipe at Asuka's thigh, but thanks to Meisha's long-range heal, she recovers quickly. Nell also gets swiped in the stomach, but he grits his teeth and bears it. After all, Meisha can't keep up with healing consecutively. "Let's finish this in one go." The 4 of them get in formation, with Milialia casting the first move, Magic Bolt. Meg follows and supports her attack, this time attacking the goat head's nape while Asuka and Nell deliver the finishing blow. With that, the Chimera finally collapses and drops dead to the ground. As soon as their kill is confirmed, Asuka turns to Jelly as she feels relieved that they actually won. She was so into the fight that she didn't realize she got nicked in the head. Meisha cradles her, applauding Asuka for a job well done. Beside them, Nell also slumps to the ground. Even he can't believe that they actually won against the Chimera. But wait, where's Meg? Mana Stone. Mana Stone. Meg proclaims excitedly as she slices through the Chimera's body. With a monster this big, the stone's gotta be huge. Too bad for her, it doesn't work like that. "Arg, what the hell is this?" she yells in frustration not a moment later while Nell and the others look on. It's no different from a small fry's Mana Stone, is it? The trio crowd around her, comforting the poor thief for her misconception. They feel bad for her for falling into the classic newbie adventurer thing, but at least they all look okay, no? Nell collapses on the ground again, too exhausted to move. "I don't think I'll be moving for a bit," he says, and both Asuka and Milialia share the same sentiment. Well, he actually wants to tell the folks down below that they're all good, but he thinks they should rest and recover for a bit first. To that, Meisha and Meg offer to do the honors, with Meg already planning to secure a promise of reward in place of the Mana Stone. Being the mother hen that he is, Nell had to dissuade her from doing that. Moments later, footsteps can be heard echoing throughout the dungeon, signaling that the rest of the adventurers are now free to go. You saved us, thanks. We thought we'd never see the sun again. They tell the Hope Party. Looking at their mass exodus, even Asuka is surprised that there really were a lot of people stuck in the dungeon. But if there were this many, couldn't they have just beaten the Chimera together? With this headcount, the room turns into a sardine can, Nell explains. It's the perfect scenario to get wiped in one sweep. As expected of my rival. Even winded, that head of yours is sharp, a voice says from the back. Nell turns, and what do you know, it's one of his buddies, Rhinos. Asuka, being the blunt person that she is, does her best to hold her tongue from calling the dude old man as she manages to say older brother at the last minute. Hey now, I'm not that old, so cut it out with the old man. Rhinos replies in good spirit, much to Nell's chagrin. Anyway, Rhinos is the leader of the hard-boiled guys party. He introduces himself to Asuka, then turns to Nell, fully intending on thanking the latter for saving his butt. Anything you want? Rhinos asks. To that, Nell looks up in a daze before snapping back to reality and answering, lumber. Huh? Lumber. To that, Nell explains that he wants to build a changing room. Oh, if he's doing renovation, Rhinos says he can just hire a carpenter instead. The hard-boiled guy's leader can arrange that for him. But with a bitter smile and a downcast look, Nell declines his offer. It doesn't work like that, given how those girls go full frontal each time. If I'm being picky, I'd like a bath where the sky isn't staring at us, Nell says with slumped shoulders, leaving Rhinos both worried and confused for his friend. Asuka, on the other hand, points out that she likes the open bath. It's nice. While they were chatting casually, their group was unaware that a creepy floating eye had been eyeing them all this time. No pun intended. Curse you humans. To think that you'd slay a chimera. A certain demon lord rages. Just you wait. I'll reclaim the ancestral lands you stole. Mama Nell, wake up. It's morning. Nell could hear someone whisper closely to him. He wakes up with a frown and the three girls half naked are leaning over him. Looks like we beat you today, Asuka happily proclaims. A loud scream follows, courtesy of Nell, who is by the way clutching his blanket over his body like some pure maiden. He still can't form a coherent sentence while Asuka tells him off that it's rude to scream in someone's face, you know? Why are you half naked? He manages to scream to his three troublesome chicks. To answer that, let's wind it back to a few days earlier, from when the Hope Shack finally had its own changing room. Rhinos is amazed because he didn't expect Nell to be such a handyman. The latter, on the other hand, claims it's easy work once you get used to it. Apart from the changing room, Nell also boasts of creating a cat tower in Meg's bed. Seeing him all giddy from his craftsmanship like this, Rhinos finally remembers that his buddy's talent was lumber master. Anyway, Nell is pretty thankful for Rhinos' help with this. You saved us, he tells Rhinos, but the hard-boiled guy's leader says it's the opposite. It's Nell's party who saved them. The three OG Hope Party members watch the two men interact, and it doesn't take long for Nell to spot them hiding behind a wall. You lot watching over there. From now on, get changed in the changing room like you should, shouts Nell from where he's standing, unaware that the girls are giving him blank stares. So now, cut to the present. Asuka claims to know that Nell only said that because Rhinos was there, but in reality she and the other girls think that Mama Nell must be lonely since he doesn't get to see them naked anymore. Underage girls in undies is a recipe for disaster or prison. There's no in between. So as any sane man, Nell quietly rises from his bed, opens the cabinet and puts all three girls in their respective camisoles in one go before they even have any chance to protest. There we go, he proclaims, proud of his work. Thus begins the girls' onslaught of complaints. If there's shade, you strip. Do you even know how old we are? All that ruckus is enough to wake Meg, who makes their way to the group. You don't have to push yourself, you know? Meisha tells Nell while the other two go, are you sick or something? Our nakedness is your emotional support, right, Mama Nell? What the hell is up with these girls? With him being cornered like this, Nell decides to shift his attention to Meg and was about to give her a slight scolding when the latter gave him a judgmental stare. Yikes, she mutters while keeping her distance from Nell. Of course, poor Nell had to clear his name. He tries to explain that she's misunderstanding something, but Meg wouldn't hear it. It's fine, Nell, Dad, she brushes him off. People have all kinds of tastes and hobbies, you know. Girl, please listen to the guy. That's it. Nell is done with this. He grabs their basket of breakfast and slams it on the table, saying he's leaving and heading to the guild. I'll be back by evening, so eat the pre-made stew for lunch. With that, he stomps off out of Hope Shack. As the girls eat their breakfast, they can't help but think of him as their mom. Now we cut to the guild. According to Jennifer, apparently monsters around Galia are increasing and getting stronger lately. Huh. Why did she use the term apparently? Nell finds the term a bit vague, but that's exactly what Jennifer means. She says they've been getting many such reports from adventurers, but from farming villages and such, there aren't any damage reports beyond the usual. Huh, now that she says it like that, Nell kind of understands what she's getting at. After all, those animals are living creatures too, so if the number of monsters rose, then it would only be natural that the creatures would raid the villages for food. In line with this, Jennifer asks if he has any idea about what's changing with the monsters lately. Well, the most recent monster Nell faced is the Chimera from the other day, and even that is way too good to be a simple mutation. Considering even monsters on other floors were markedly strengthened, I don't want to think it either. But it's a sign of the Demon King army incursion, Nell says. The last human-demon war was 500 years ago, and since then there haven't been any major conflicts up to now. Suffice it to say that what Nell had just said is a pretty big leap of speculation. Well, speculation or not, Jennifer pulls out a map and points to a certain location. It seems it's worth investigating here. He looks at the place and knows it. It's the ruined Piran Castle. Sure, demons built that fortress 500 years ago, but it was never used and left abandoned, right? He says. Plus, as strange as it is for him to say this, Nell would like to investigate with a bit more certainty. To that, Jennifer straight up tells him that they don't have proof, but what she does have is her woman's intuition. There it is, a woman's intuition. Nell doesn't say it out loud, but if Jennifer insists on that, then it's a bona fide saint talent revelation skill, the same as Meisha's. With that said, she issues a new request for the Hope Party. Investigate the increase in empowerment of monsters at Piran Fortress. And who is Nell to say no to that? Later that night, a shooting star illuminates the night sky. A star has fallen, an elder demon claims. Another one asks if this is an auspicious sign, to which the elder demon explains that it bodes ill will for humans. It means humans with the star of hero are fewer. The younger demon smiles because for them, it means it's a good omen. That is exactly so, Your Majesty, Demon King Ingrol, answers the elder demon. Somewhere else in the kingdom, legions of the undead rise as another demon summons a mighty entity. This time, do not fail, he tells the dark entity. Turn the humans into carrion, O Lich, king of the undead. As soon as Nell heads back to the Hope Shack, he informs their party of the new request. He tells them that it would take 12 days of travel on foot from Galia to their target location, the ruined Piran Castle. Meg takes note of this information, a little surprised that the location is quite far. The Galia region is that prosperous, and it's a vast territory, he explains. It's the domain of Margrave Dros, who guards the border with the Kingdom of Mazel. Wait, Kingdom of Mazel? Asuka knows that that's the demon nation, right? Mulialia clarifies and asks if the monster enhancement incident is probably a sign of an invasion from the demon army. That's what Nell initially thought as well, but if they think more simply, it could also be due to a magical item left in the Piran ruins that went berserk, thus causing the monster's increase in empowerment. Either way, we'll find out after this investigation. For now, let's move out. With that, the girls quickly obeyed their leader and made the long journey toward Piran Castle, with Nell leading the way. They gathered materials in the forest to cook their meat, and as night fell, the Hope Party checked in at a local inn. The three OG girls instantly doze off, while Nell lies awake in bed thinking about how those three are out cold in mere seconds. Suddenly, he feels something. He quickly draws his blade and points it, ready to attack. Who's there, he asks. It's me, Chill, was Meg's reply, her face mere inches away from the tip of Nell's sword. He sheathes his weapon and tells her that it's way too late for a night crawl, but Meg means business. She feels something strange. Not killing intent, but more like we're being watched, she says worriedly. Nell is already putting on his armor while asking her if she has already checked outside the window. Well, that's the thing. According to her, fog has settled in, so she can't see a darn thing. Wake Asaka and the others, gear up and regroup in this room, Nell instructs her. If he's acting like this, then this just means that they're dealing with an enemy, right? So who are we dealing with? Given that it's the middle of the night with a strange presence and a fog rolling in, Nell believes it's most likely the Lich. The Lich? You mean the undead king? She echoes with a shock. Seeing how her nerves are getting the better of her, he calmly tells her that if they know it's approaching, then they can respond in many ways. It's all thanks to you, Meg, Neldad says, patting the top of her head for a job well done. Good work. After patting her, Meg bolts out of the room saying she'll get everyone. Aw, she's shy. But now that Nell is alone, it made him wonder if maybe he's treating her a bit too much like a kid, no? Anyway, the Lich. Nell looks out the window and sees that the fog is very much present outside, just like Meg said. With no visuals, he wonders how this will play out. At least he knows zombie minions aren't smart enough to open doors or break windows, so the other lodgers at the inn should be safe as long as they stay indoors. Outside, miasma grows thicker, and before long, the Legion of the Undead slowly comes into view. Alright, here it comes. Nell gives everyone a heads up. Meg feels a bit unsettled because of this feeling, which she can't exactly call hostility, and before she could find the right word for it, Meisha chimes in that it's actually envy toward the living. The latter explains that the undead will try to drag you into a cold, dark bog. There's no way in hell I'm dying to that. Let's roast 'em quick. Meg replies, a torch already lit in one hand and explosive powder in another. I second this. Asuka cries, they're filthy, they stink, and they don't even drop magic stones when you kill them. But before these two could launch the first attack, a hand blocked them from doing so. Mama Nell, requesting permission for the opening strike, Mulialia says, her staff ready to hit it. The Lich and his undead move closer, and Nell gives her the green light. Go for it. Spear of Fire. Mulialia casts, instantly torching several of the undead. Meg follows it up with an explosive, hitting the undead square in the head that sends it bursting into flames, dragging others along with it. Ha! As expected, fire is their weakness. Good for the party because they don't have to deal with magical counterattacks. Nell gives Meisha the signal, and the priestess does her thing. Sanctuary. She casts, instantly lighting a magic circle in the ground. All the undead within the circle are rendered immobile, so now Meisha puts them to rest. Sleep, ye undead. A bright light illuminates them, and not a moment later they disintegrate to nothingness. Both Nell and Asuka are wide-eyed, amazed at Meisha's skills. Heck, amazed isn't even enough to cut it. Using offensive and defensive magic together in perfect synergy, that's priest-class finesse. These words were barely out of Nell's mouth when Meisha collapses, her mana drained. Or is it hunger? Thankfully, Meg shoves a lollipop in her mouth, giving her that sugar rush. Nell still cheers her on for doing a great job. You three rest up. Mother and I will finish this in one go, Asuka proclaims as she and Nell dash straight to the enemy. With her impressive swordsmanship, Asuka easily takes down the undead, clearing a path for Mama Nell. She gives him the signal, with Nell thanking her for it. Asuka uses this chance to request something obscene. Pay me back with a hot kiss. Nell had to look away, embarrassed, but he still tells her that he'll do so when she's an adult. And that's more than enough for Asuka. Running into a hero right away. Talk about rotten luck, the Lich mutters as it comes face to face with Nell. Huh? What is the undead king talking about? That's when the Lich lets on that this town was meant to be their starting point for the invasion while adding Nell and the others to their army of corpses. Like hell we're letting you do that. Nell fires back, going on the offensive and taking a swing at the undead king. The moment his sword comes in contact with the latter, the Lich flinches as it feels something off. A holy weapon. Before it can defend itself, Nell goes for the kill and cuts it down squarely. How careless of me. If only my mana weren't spent, I wouldn't lose to some brat, were the Lich's last words. As he disintegrates to nothingness, an orb falls to the ground, the only thing that remains of what once was the undead king. Looking at the item, Nell can't help but wonder if it is a coincidence that the Lich's mana had run dry, that they blunted their invasion from the get-go. After their encounter with the Lich, the Hope Party continues to their target destination. Soon they reach the outskirts of the ruined Piran Castle. Melialia consults with the map, and it looks like the Lich probably came from the castle, a sentiment Nell shares. There are no settlements between Piran Castle and Milt, which was attacked, which also means there were no humans who turned into zombies. Huh. So this just means it had to resort to summoning magic, no? Nell deduced. Melialia thinks so, since the Lich's mana was bone dry during their encounter. The Lich and its army of the undead were probably trying to recover by feeding on fear and other negative emotions, eyeing a mere post town as their first victim. Still, it's scary to think what would have happened if they ever reached Galia. And by chance, at this backwater inn town of Milt, there happened to be skilled adventurers, so the army of the undead was stopped. By chance? Melialia echoes. Well, if they call this by chance, then life would be so easy, no? Just look at how carefree Asuka is. Well, there's no point in overthinking it, she says, they can just chalk it up to being lucky. Meisha thinks so too, adding that it isn't complicated at all. Lady Jennifer must have received a revelation as well, she adds. Well, if Meisha says it like that, then there's no room for debate. Back to the current situation. Now that they're here, what now? If they're going to infiltrate, Meg offers to be their scout. As she was about to head off, Neldad dissuaded her from doing so. Infiltration is not feasible, we don't know the layout inside or how many are hiding there, he explains. We don't even know who controls the castle in the first place. With that said, the only way for them to go is to go through the front, boldly. Solo charge. Asuka cries out, but Nell Mama quickly shuts her down, saying that's not what he meant. Melialia questions his plan of action, and if anything, going through the front is more of a plan Asuka would do. Well, it's the lost traveler's tactic, Nell explains. If the Lord is decent, they won't abandon people in need. If they occupy it for evil ends, they won't just let witnesses walk away. With that said, whether the intent is welcome or assassination, they'll have no choice but to bring the Hope Party inside the castle either way. Oh well, if that's the case, Asuka has one concern: does their outfit make them look suspicious? Her sentiment also makes Meisha ponder over it, because anyone could tell at a glance that they're adventurers. At that, Nell tells them that there's no need for disguises, merchants showing up in a place this remote would be unusual too. Mercenaries look too dangerous, and refugees would have a weird gender ratio. So who can be armed out here without raising eyebrows, he asks. The girls answer in unison, adventurers. Meanwhile, on the demon's side, they have pressing matters to attend to. Your Majesty, Mylan, a female demon, calls out to Ingril with urgency. Terrible news. The Orb of Dominion has been stolen from the treasury. This made the Demon King turn to face her, as Mylene continued that the perpetrator had left a note in her room and had taken her own life. But what's even more worrying is that the orb's whereabouts are still unknown. Hearing such a report, the Elder Demon wonders if the Warhawk noble houses have grown impatient. The late Demon King and his predecessor both always kept their fangs bared ready to invade, the Elder Demon says. Now is the moment to reclaim our forefathers' lands taken by the humans. Furthermore, she thinks that the situation just means that many demons frown upon Ingril's moderation. Do not forget that, she warns him. Ingril, on the other hand, just about had enough. Here we go again with Granny's scolding, he thinks. Bro is so done. Honestly, he thinks his dad and grandpa never even meant to fight humans, they just struck a will fight pose, and the humans misunderstood that. Plus, he doubts many are unhappy with their lives now, and compared to the lands they lived in over 500 years ago, it's much warmer and crops grow better now. What's the point of invading poor cold human countries if they're going to throw that life away? Ingral dissociated so hard that his grandma had to shout to get his attention. Are you listening? The elder demon yaps. Yeah, I'm listening. Ingral gently nudges his grandma out of the room, reminding her that her blood pressure will spike again, so it's best to call it a day. And whose fault is that? She barks, but Ingral gets rid of her all the same with a snicker. If you tease her too much, she might really drop dead, you know? A voice tells His Majesty it was Mylene. Well, in Ingral's defense, his grandma and the others just won't shut up about taking back the so-called holy ancestral lands, which kind of makes him snide about it. Mylene understands where he's coming from. After all, their warless generation can't really feel hatred for humans. Even Ingral can see that the elder still thinks the war hasn't ended and that the older folks still bear the grudge of losing land and culture. Because of that, the orb was stolen, but since that happened, even Ingral can't stay moderate now. The Demon King is curious about the perpetrator Mylene mentioned earlier, and she fills him in, saying the girl was from a humble house. They don't even know if calling it suicide is true or not. Ingral promises to make sure the girl's family lacks for nothing, and urges Mylene to continue with the investigation and to do it quickly, since the spark must be snuffed out at once. Mylene vows happy to oblige His Majesty since that's what they're for after all. We made you king and we're the fire brigade, Ingral, she tells him as more demons suddenly appear from behind her out of nowhere. Watch out for any strange movements near the Lintlight border, especially the Galia frontier, she commands. And if a commotion starts, it won't be in the capital. The brigade heeded her command and left just as quickly. With them gone, Ingral tells her that he's glad he made her the leader, especially since things like these must be done by the book. At that, she offers that she could also be as ruthless as the former leader. The mood was set, but it was shattered by just a few words. Excuse me, Lady Mylene. A female demon cuts in. When I give the go signal, please disappear. Mylene chews her out. If you just linger, it's super awkward, Salieri. The demon Salieri fires back at how Mylene likes to utter cool lines just so she can bask in herself, making Mylene shy. Anyway, what did Salieri want anyway? Mylene has already issued orders, so Salieri is free to act at her own discretion. Well, Salieri thinks they should infiltrate Lintlight, adding that if trouble starts, it won't be on this side of the border but over there. Mylene narrows her eyes, asking why Salieri thinks such. With a smile, the latter claims it's just a gut feeling. There was a pause before Mylene finally relented. Fine, you've always been oddly sharp, the fire brigade leader says. Permission granted to operate abroad, go investigate. However, even if you find someone suspicious, don't act on your own. With that, Salieri salutes and says she'll do as her leader wishes. The Hope Party waltzes right into Piran Castle's front door, where they are stopped by the station demon guard. Halt! Who goes there? The latter asks. Nell starts his Oscar-worthy act, claiming they're adventurers who lost their way. The demon guard glares at them, and why wouldn't he? Demons are the mortal enemies of humans. Yet the only ones who truly believe that are the comfortable folks living in the royal capital. Galia is different. Its economy thrives on covert trade with Massel, the demon nation. As a condition of that smuggling, the demons made a pledge to Count Dros to provide ample education and aid to orphanages and relief houses. And yeah, this makes Galia's orphanage industry booming because proper orphanages receive lots of subsidies. However, some gather children just for money and operate the institution poorly. Others, like Meg, get scooped up by the Thieves Guild. And some other orphans even die. Suffice it to say, Galia is no paradise, but it does reap benefits, so there aren't many who recoil just because someone's a demon. Now back to the standstill between the Hope Party and the Demon Guard. Nell thinks it won't hurt to be cautious, so here goes. Could you grant us lodging and a meal for just one night? He politely asks the already glaring Demon Guard. No sooner had he said that than the guard grinned and beamed. Well, you've had a rough time. We can't offer much, but you can rest here. Huh, well that turned out better than expected. At least it's going just as Nell planned. The guard opens the gate and ushers them inside while Nell thanks him for the hospitality. I'll show you to the guest room, so come along. Milialia whispers to their mama Nell, pleased at how they were let in just like how he predicted. But this is just where the problem starts. Still, Nell says they would just adjust their response depending on how the demons move. The thing about castle-holding nobles is that they usually have a great pride. They'll typically at least offer shelter to lost travelers, but you can never know until you're in it, right? Now that they have the room all to themselves, Nell starts giving them orders. Meg, pretend you need to use the toilet and scout the interior, he says. To Meisha, he tells her to ask to pray and memorize the route to the chapel, with Asuka tagging along with her. Nell then asks Milialia if she could help him draft a plan together. They only have about half an hour until then, so they should return in 15 minutes at the latest. The girls went to work quickly and instantly bumped into another demon on their way out. Of course, the three overwhelmed the poor guy with their requests all at once, so the poor guard had no choice but to accommodate them. Looking at what had just happened, it made Nell realize that humans and demons are both suckers for pretty girls' requests, no? Which means I'm lacking in charm, so I'm the one left behind. Malialia adds from behind. I see how it is. Oh crap, he didn't mean to offend her like this. With his hands up, Nell tells her that he's counting on her brains. But it's too late, the damage is done. Malialia turns away from him, saying, "Don't look at me, I'm just a kid, remember. I don't have any brains." Nell tries to butter her up, saying she's plenty grown up. Upon hearing the term, she asks if he would want to share a bed with her. Desperate to appease her, Nell says something dangerous. Maybe when you're an adult, age-wise. With that, she smiles sweetly. I have your statement on the record. Ugh, now Nell feels he just really said something dangerous. 15 minutes later, the other girls return. Nell holds them off from reporting and asks them to stand by since he believes they're about to be summoned based on the footsteps in the hall. So did something happen? Asuka asks Malialia coyly. I got a verbal commitment, was the other's proud answer. Nice, now it's Meisha's turn next. At the mention of her name, their priestess friend just tells them that everything is by the supreme God's will. I shall slip into his bed, was her bold proclamation. So much for God's will, huh? Even Meg can't help but comment on how hardcore that idea is. The girls were already chatting about seeing them like that, and Nell has a hunch that they may be plotting something again. Dinner is prepared. A voice from the other side of the door informs them. Lord Zakrant awaits your arrival. Finally, it's time for them to meet the big boss of the castle. Welcome to my castle, adventurers. An older but gentle-looking demon pleasingly greets them. Nell bows his head, showing gratitude at how the lord of the castle rescued them and even honored them like this. Our hero is simply speechless out of gratitude. Lord Zakrant smiles and says a little trouble is most welcome at the palace, given how life is pretty dull there. The lord of the castle looks nice enough, so for now, Nell thinks they could let up for a bit. Our hero bows, introducing himself as Lionel from the Hope clan, and proceeds to introduce Asuka, Meisha, Meg, and Malialia. The demon lord reciprocates the gesture and introduces himself as well. I am Zakrant. I've been entrusted with this castle by the demon king. The elder demon says, I'm a descendant of the demons. Nell's ears perked at that, echoing, descendants, so the former explains that his father was charged with guarding the castle 500 years ago. Whew, 500 years? That's some loyalty Zakrant's father has right there. From a stranger's perspective, they must see it as loyalty, but Zakrant admits that they're actually the descendants of demons who fled because they hated the war. With that said, he proceeds to tell Nell and the others the history of what happened between the humans and the demons. 500 years ago, the demon army and humans decided to struggle at the Battle of Summel Plains. Back then, Paran wasn't a main battlefield, deserters expecting defeat flocked here, he relays. My father, the previous lord of Paran, harbored those deserters and spared needless bloodshed. Later, the demon army lost, moved south, and founded a nation. Humans suffered heavy losses and couldn't pursue them, hence why Paran was left behind. Supposedly, they meant to rejoin once things cooled down. But the demon king died of war wounds, and a succession followed. From there, Zakrant says the humans fought among themselves and partitioned the lands, and before they knew it, a century had passed with no chance to offer fealty. In time, the humans' fear of demons waned, and the demon kingdom forgot those deserters from a century ago. As a result, they just stayed in Piran. They could obtain what they couldn't produce via trade, and around 80 years ago, the current demon king took the throne and started covert trade with Galia. Because of that, the nearby humans know Zakrant and the other demons live in the castle and choose not to make a fuss. Huh? So does that mean the Lich didn't come from this castle? Asuka asks up front. Nell panics a bit because his girl is way too blunt. Huh? Those guys? Zakrant says they were headed towards the human town, and that a while back a certain someone visited them. Now is the time, the Darth Maul-looking demon from a few chapters ago exclaims. To reclaim our forefathers' land stolen by humans. The time of crouching ends. If you're any sort of demon, join me. Zakrant answers him with a flat no. Huh? Have you no pride? The first demon questions. To that, Zakrant replies that they are not submitting to humans. After all, they've already chosen to put their roots down at the castle, and with that said, he asks the first demon to leave. The latter tries to kick up a fuss, but before he could do so, Zakrant threw him out of Paran Castle, literally. When Nell heard the last part, he couldn't help but think how comical that was. Anyway, the demon lord is pleased to know that Nell and the others beat that creep so they can relax now. Well, this is heading in a different direction than Nell expected. So here's what's confirmed. Paran has stood for 5 centuries and been inhabited, and the Lich that attacked the in-town came as far as Paran. Malialia can't help but comment that this comes as a shocker but lays down all the facts first to keep it simple. Paran Castle and its residents are unrelated to the monster's changes. However, their commission did tell them to head to Paran Castle. Malialia doubts that encountering a Lich on the way was factored in, so at least that one was incidental. Nell says they could just treat their encounter with the Lich as a fluke, but if anything, there's one more thing that bothers him. Why did the one who approached Zakrant and then controlled a Lich to attack Piran but got repelled choose a Lich? After all, the undead king is clever and hard to control. If he were going for a siege using Cyclops who are known for their brute force, or even wyverns striking from above would be a better fit. Miliala has a hunch that it might be an experiment. An experiment? They're testing progressively stronger monsters to see how much control they have, like the Chimera in the Lackless Labyrinth. It could have been used as part of that experiment, right? Well, if it's like that, before Nell could even reply, the castle starts to shake. Speak of the devil, and it shows up, he mutters, already aware that a group of ogres is attacking Piran Castle. Enemy attack. The watch from the tower rings the bell as he sees the ogres approaching from the forest. Zakrant and Nell also head outside to confirm it with their own eyes. From the looks of it, their opponent seems to have a very high learning ability. One of the Cyclops picks up a boulder and hurls it at the castle wall. Nell checks the damage, saying it's only a matter of time before the walls are breached. Zakrant, on the other hand, feels apologetic for dragging Nell into their problem, apologizing as he says so. Since an invasion has been hinted at, humans can't claim to be uninvolved, was Nell's reply. We'll join the fight. The Demon Lord appreciates the offer, but seeing who their enemy is, there's little they can do against that lot. Being the strategist that he is, Nell doesn't share the sentiment. If anything, he believes the Cyclops' objective is to seize Piran Castle. He can tell based on the Cyclops' method of attack. They're targeting the walls and gate with stone throwing only, he explains to the curious Zakrant. If they didn't mind destroying things, then they'd lob shots in a higher arc to hit the interior. The reason they don't do that is that they want this castle as their base to invade the kingdom of Lintlight. Basically, the enemy is just using the Cyclops as giant siege engines, and Nell already knows a simple counter to that. He moves closer to Zakrant and whispers that he has a plan. After a while, the Demon Lord slowly smiles and then proceeds to give orders to the castle guards. Everyone, head to the armory at once and deploy the heavy ballistae. The guards quickly did as he commanded, and as soon as the weapon was set up, they fired the giant spears, instantly killing the Cyclops by the dozen. Zakrant orders them to continue firing, and before long, each Cyclops is riddled with holes. Don't relax yet, prepare for the next Cyclops. Zakrant barks. But Nell stops him, saying no more Cyclops are coming unless, of course, wild Cyclops are just swarming around the area. With that said, there's no benefit to feeding in forces piecemeal, so you could say those 4 Cyclops are all they have. Their magical asset, the Lich, failed and the brute Cyclops force failed too, Nell mutters. So the enemy has relearned that there are no clever tricks in a siege. Zakrant then asks him how their enemy will respond this time. Nell smiles. With an orthodox approach, pour in masses of infantry, break the gate, flood in at once and seize the defensive points. The usual method. But the thing about sieges is that they cost attackers heavily, and any competent commander would avoid them if possible. But see here, the enemy doesn't need to care about losses. Zakrant finally follows his logic and continues what Nell is saying. Their troops are monsters. Suffice it to say, hundreds of monsters dying won't hurt the enemy. This now poses a threat to the castle because if the enemy attacks in numbers, Piran will eventually fall, and if it drags on, then their stores won't last. Zakrant thinks long and hard, wondering what the weakness of a siege defense is. But unlike him, Nell is not too worried. The esteemed strategist believes it won't drag on, and when the Demon Lord asks him, Nell says, it's still a secret. Stringing it out a bit makes it feel more valuable. The way he withholds information for excitement elicits a laugh from Zakrant. The latter even starts hitting his back. There it is, the old "you'll see when the time comes" line. What a classic strategist. Anyway, Nell suggests they start repairing the gate. Below, the demon foot soldiers are quick to patch the holes, hammering and sealing the holes with lumber. Suddenly, they hear deafening screeches coming from the forest. Goblins. The demon soldiers urge their fellow demons to fall back inside and evacuate at once. No sooner had the first goblin entered the threshold than it was cut down in two, thanks to Asuka's swift movements. Make way for Lady Asuka. From above, Zakrant finally understands Nell's strategy. By deliberately narrowing the repair point, you funnel the horde into a single path and destroy them piecemeal. Well, Nell had a hunch that the enemy had no monsters suited for aerial recon, given how they only used Cyclops for the surprise attack. Following that logic, their enemy can only gather flat ground-level intel. So if only the main gate were open, they'd see a trap, but a hole we're desperately patching won't look like one. Back to the battle below, one of the demon soldiers gets slashed by a soldier, but the pain only lasts for a second before he is instantly healed. Of course, this is thanks to Meisha's long-range heal. Everyone, we the priest squad will tend to your wounds, she shouts from above, so fight without worry. They were all so smitten by her that a lone goblin managed to move past their defenses and sneak inside. Too bad for the creature, because as soon as he entered, his head started to roll. The poor little guy didn't even know what hit him. And it's all thanks to Meg. That should be the last straggler, yeah. From above, Nell tells them that the enemy should be pulling back right about now and tells them to keep watch on the north gate. At the east gate, there's Malialia, leading the magic unit. Magic Bolt. Malialia casts, followed by an explosion that left many goblins heavily wounded. Still, the creatures make a break for it and head straight to the forest. Nell already foresaw that a few of them would get away, but before he could ponder over it, Zakrant's voice pulled him back to reality. Tacticians are fearsome things, the Demon Lord quips. To turn enemy after enemy back on themselves. But Nell is too humble to accept such praise. After all, he says he only demonstrated basic tactics and given the chance, anyone versed in strategy could do it. But Zakrant knows our hero is the real deal. As for me, you're the only able strategist who can say that. If the Demon Lord puts it that way, Nell also gives credit to the demon soldiers. It's pretty rare for him to see well-coordinated troops like these. They instantly grasped their commander's intent. It made Nell a little thankful that their host was not the enemy. Anyway, Nell wants to know more about the enemy commander. He called himself Genoe, supposedly one of the kingdom's elders, Zakrant says. Wait, he's an elder? At that, Zakrant's actually not so sure about that fact. Nell can't blame the guy, they've been cut off from the demon nation for 500 years after all. Anyway, the Demon Lord continues that despite Genunai's talk of demon pride, the latter showed no royal edict at all, prompting Zakrant to turn him away. This makes Nell ponder everything even more. Zakrant was right to kick Genai out since there's no duty to obey without the Demon King's writ. With all things considered, Nell believes that since Genai is acting on his own, this makes his title as elder as questionable. Plus, if it wasn't an edict ordering a muster, then there should be a warrant for his arrest, right? No known magic can command monsters like that. So Nell believes it's likely Genuni is using National Treasure class ancient sorcery. Zakrant tells him that he's correct on that assumption, with Nell explaining further that the attack on Piran Castle wasn't just a springboard to invade the kingdom of Lintlight. Rather, it's meant as a bastion against pursuers from Mazel as well, which is pretty reasonable on his end. So yeah, those are all of Nell's assumptions, but of course he's quick to put on a disclaimer that these are all just conjectures. Now that they're done speculating, Nell's immediate concern is the risk of another assault. Since they only have one stronghold, reinforcements won't come. All will be lost if stragglers raid the towns, just like what the Lich told him before. That's why Nell decided that they'll sally forth and cut down this Genai guy. Asuka's happy to get back in action, but Milialia, ever the brains of the group, has one valid concern. If we leave the castle, won't they pounce on us? That's a pretty solid question, but Nell believes their lot will be fine. So far the enemy has failed twice already, and one of those times they lured the enemy into a trap and thrashed them. If we show them an opening, they'll suspect a trap, Nell explains. Humans and demons think alike in that regard. This also gives Nell and the others room to lay one more trap. He asks Zakrant if they could borrow a few warriors and scouts from the Demon Lord, and the latter is more than happy to oblige. Zakrant is curious to know what the plan is. But don't tell me, is it a secret again? The Demon Lord quips in good humor. Yeah, something like that was Nell's only response. Later that night, the Hope clan, along with a few demon warriors and scouts, set out for the forest. Meisha notices something and tells Nell that the enemy has taken the bait. Nell and the others quickly move away from the path and hide among the trees as the surviving goblins from the lot they mauled from their last trap appear from the bushes. Our hero keeps an eye out for them, noting that these goblins would have been written off as combat ineffective by now. This prompts Meg to ask if their enemy is also laying a trap for them. But no, Nell doesn't think so. The ones before them are actually expendable pawns. These lots are used to wear down Nell and the others with numbers, then push fresh units in. At least that's what he's read on their assault pattern so far. Meg frowns at that. So what do we do, she asks. Leave such rabble be, Nell says firmly. What matters is where they came from. Pointing to a nearby cave. The routed goblins fled that same way, so no doubt the main camp lies ahead. The routed goblins felt that same way, so there's no doubt the main camp lies ahead. They have to move fast. Nell instructs everyone that they just need to bypass the decoy and advance, leading the party in discretion as they do so. Push through at once, he commands as the goblin noises start to become louder. Asuka looks behind and sees the goblins tailing after them. They've noticed us, but they can't keep up, she says cheekily. Nell warns her not to get careless because once they slip past the decoys, the next is, yep, ogres. Speak of the devil and they shall appear. Well, it looks like these are Gainai's prized guards. If he had this strength, he should have used it in the charge, Nell mutters as he draws his sword. What a waste. He gives the signal, and a moment later, Asuka and the other demon warriors let it rip. The ogre lets out a mighty roar before it starts chasing after Asuka. Milialia can't believe it. Are these big dumb oafs really that stupid? Ogres are dumb by default, Nell clarifies. Failing to handle them makes this Gainai even dumber. Well, if that's the case for these big dummies, Milialia lets them have it and conjures her ice spikes, impaling the monsters. Asuka comes in right then and delivers the finishing blow, instantly decapitating their lot. On the demon warriors' end, they're almost done with their ogre takedown too. Unlike them who are seeing all the action, Meisha is left on the sidelines worrying that she won't get a turn. Well, not necessarily, Nell chimes, and just like clockwork, Asuka slips and falls. See? Meisha heals her friend, while all Nell could think of is, that's what you get for showboating. Well, now that all the ogres are wiped out, Nay says it's time for them to find their commander. No need, Meg cuts in, appearing out of the blue. Over there, she motions just behind her. What the hell? It's Janai, collapsed on the ground. Nell's eyes widen in shock as he asks if Meg killed him. Nah, it's just a paralytic, their thief answers. According to her, she found him yelling at the ogres the whole time, so he didn't notice Meg coming up from behind. Nell and the others look at Genoa, full of judgment. Is this guy an idiot? Even Meg wondered if the old fart was setting up a trap. Anyway, Nell thinks it's best to just haul him off to the castle, then contact the Mazel Kingdom. No sooner had the words gotten out of his mouth than Nell felt a presence from behind. He quickly whips his head around. More enemies? I'm not an enemy, the unexpected figure proclaims. Call me Salieri. I'm here to nab the guy lying there. What's more, she urges them to just think of her as a hound of the Mazel Kingdom. Here's a little something about Salieri. This dark elf girl was often misunderstood since she was a child. This was mostly because she always looked terribly sleepy. Stand up straight, don't space out. The adults would often proclaim, nagging her over and over again. Despite her looks, Salieri excelled in both studies and combat and was on par with her peers. And yet her evaluations never improved. There came a point when Salieri even started to hate her own face. But then one day, a sudden realization hit her. This came in the form of a colleague asking to swap his farm inspection assignment for her border security one, citing that the former is peaceful and boring. It's perfect for you since you're always zoned out, right? The other guy claims. From here, Salieri changed her thinking. Her sleepy look is a weapon. Now back to the present. Everyone's back at Piran Castle, including Salieri. Right now, she had just finished introducing herself again as part of the Mazel Kingdom's special unit, the Firebreakers. We handle anything from assassination to reconnaissance, you know, she happily divulges, leaving Asuka so impressed with them. Meg, on the other hand, is feeling iffy. Isn't it careless to blab about that? Are you really one of those Firebreakers? Rather than answer her, Salieri just smiles. Acting dopey lowers people's guards. That's the method, right? Nell says, seeing through the Dark Elf's act. Nell can't help but be wary of her. After all, she might also be plotting something else. Salieri steps into his personal space right then. Fewer than 10 people spot that on their first meeting with me, she claims. You look fun to be around. Suddenly, a hand bars her from moving any closer to Nell. It was Asaska's. From Nell's back, Meisha wraps his arm around him in a possessive manner while Milialia takes his hand in hers. What are you guys doing? Our poor hero asks, confused at what was happening. From behind the door, Zakran chimes in saying, that's my line, Lionel. Of course, Nell is quick to explain that this is just their usual playful fit. The demon shouldn't mind them at all. More importantly, he's curious where Janai is. The latter informs him that Janai is safely confined in the dungeons, while Salieri quickly cuts in, asking the demon lord to help her with drafting the report to the royal government. First, the events leading up to the battle, and keep it as detailed as possible, please, she requests. Nell and Zakrant exchange looks before our hero gives him an approving nod. From there, Zakrant laid everything out to Salieri while the latter jotted it all down, including this incident. From Zakrant's side, Nell eyes her warily. So it's about Piran Castle's continued existence and the 500-year blank, he thought to himself. It's hard to imagine they'll pass any judgment now. Salieri notices Nell looking at her, then lightheartedly tells him to knock it off. Nell did as she told, apologizing as he did, as he added that he had always had a harsh look. Hearing him say that makes Salieri pleased, because this just shows they're more alike than they seem. Anyway, back to business. She has no authority by herself, so she'll just lightly note Piran Castle's existence and its lord in the report. After, she summons a winged carrier to send the report to the border fort. As she attaches the message to the creature, Asuka can't help but fawn over it. Like, honestly, same. How can you not? It's literally so cool. As soon as it flew away, Nell asked her how long it takes for them to receive a reply. It can fly to the border fort in 2 hours, but from there it goes by relay horse. So let's say about 5 days, Salieri says. Ooh, Asuka continues fawning over her, amazed that the border is much closer than she thought. Unlike her, Nell pales. No, this is not right. He fears for Salieri for a bit because who goes around stating distances? She shouldn't have done that, not in front of them, humans. Still, he's unsure if she's being careless or if she's calculating. With a sigh, he only prays that the Demon King is wise. Salieri assures him that it's fine. What's more, her cousin is the Demon King's secretary. Meanwhile, at the Demon Kingdom, Mylene heads to Ingral's chambers, bearing news that a report from Salieri has arrived. Oh, the Demon King didn't expect that it would arrive so soon. Mylene huffs, proudly telling His Majesty that her cousin may look like that, but she gets things done. Ingral reads the report, and the more he does, the deeper his brows furrow. That's when he reveals to her the contents of the report. Even Mylene frowns at the idea of meeting the Lord of Piran. The peculiarities of the report go on because it's also stated there that the one who's responsible for the capture of Ginuni was actually a human adventurer. What's more, Salieri suggests that they should invite the Lord of Piran Castle and the human adventurers to the palace to present thanks. This is really quite the whirlwind for Ingral. Mylene reads the letter herself, noting its orderly fashion, but there's no doubt about it, this is Salieri's work. Still, what is that girl thinking? Don't ask me. She's your cousin, Ingral laments. With a straight face, Mylene replies that Salieri is actually their child. Yours and mine, Your Majesty, she says. Huh? For real? I'm joking, she replies with a straight face. Thought it might lighten up the mood a little. Ingril is stressed enough, his heart can't take that. Anyway, to more important matters, Mylene asks how they should proceed with this. Even Ingril himself mulls over this. In his mind, it's as Salieri says they must honor those who rendered service, which means inviting the humans and Lord Piran to court, holding a ceremony and granting rewards. But the thing is, the former are humans of the enemy Lintlight Kingdom. As for Piran inviting in effect the head of an independent city-state, they can't just do that lightly. The adventurers we can invite as individuals apart from any nation, Mylene chimes. This really just confirms that this is their only option, as Ingril has feared. But the main issue is the Lord of Piran. Their response will heavily depend on how the latter views future ties with the Mazal Kingdom. Ordinarily, Ingril and the others would plan carefully by council, but unfortunately Salieri already stepped in. Negotiation is beyond her, I presume. Ingril says. Sure, she's excellent as a firebreaker, but negotiation and such isn't her forte. One of Ingril's advisors, who we didn't even know was there, chimes in that if they send the wrong minister while humans are present, it could get messy. That leaves them with no choice. Mylene volunteers that she shall go herself. Ingril's mood instantly lifts. My soul friend, he cries. She corrected him, saying that she's his lover, not a friend. At that, Ingril becomes stressed, reminding her not to go as a lover. She should go as a secretary. Mylene already knows that herself. Ingril worries too much. She makes her way to the door while Ingril trails worriedly behind her. Don't try to make it interesting, okay? Honestly, what does His Majesty take her for? Did he already forget the joke she made about their secret child? Poor Ingril is distressed as hell, and it's evident on his face. Anyway, he tells her that she's the most trusted subordinate he has and how it feels wrong when she's not there. I'm counting on you, Mylene, he says. Hearing that made her smile, telling Ingril not to worry and leave it to her. While waiting for His Majesty's reply, Nell decided to use their time productively by patching what they could at Piran's castle. It will take days to repair the walls damaged in just a few hours of battle, he says with a sigh. We need not only time but money. Seriously, war is good for nothing. Money can be earned again, Zakrant says, suddenly appearing behind him. Goods can be reproduced or bought again, but lives aren't like that. He continues that in every respect humans and demons alike cannot be replaced so long as blood runs in them. To this, Nell adds that they must treasure people even if they pay a vast price to raise them. Now the only thing that puzzles Zakrant is why the strategist grumbles over something like repair costs if he understands something fundamental like that. Because I'm poor, was the latter's solid answer. The demon lord can't exactly help with that, so just like in any awkward situation he decides to reroute the topic. The envoy from Mazal should be arriving soon. At least that much is true since it's been 15 days since they sent the report. And oh, speak of the devil, they see two figures approaching from a distance. A pleasure to make your acquaintance. The dark elf bows. I am Mylene, secretary to His Majesty, the Demon King Ingril. Zakrat and Nell also introduce themselves shortly, and our hero is quick to discern that this is the cousin Salieri was talking about. Mylene doesn't beat around the bush and goes straight to business. She tells them that the Demon King is undecided regarding Lord Piran and the disposition of this land. But first she tells them His Majesty would like to learn their wishes. Well, wishes or not, Zakrant wants to confirm something. His Majesty wishes to officially treat Piran as a vassal, yes? He states that they can't very well become a full part of Mazal now. Mylene tells him that it is the case. From the side, Nell thinks about how it would cause friction even within Mazal. Unilaterally attaching another nation's territory is the kind of thing that sparks war. Fine by me, was Zakrant's quick reply. We'll become a vassal. Was Nell, Salieri and Mylene's unified answer. I said we'll become a vassal, Zakrant reiterates with a smile. While we're at it, let's decide the tax rate as well. Nell can't believe this guy. This isn't something one should decide so casually. Zakrant continues that their forebears merely stayed to avoid a useless war. If the current Demon King wishes for peace with humans, I want to support that, he adds while looking at Nell. For Zakrant, it's only proper to submit. There isn't anything wrong with his logic, is there? No, your wise judgment merits our deepest thanks, Mylene says with a bow. Looking at Zakrant like this, Nell's pretty impressed. For one, he knew the Demon Lord wasn't just easygoing. He was not one for petty bargaining tricks, and was a bold and very straightforward man. His loyalty hinges on coexistence with humans, so if the Demon King betrays that, then Zakrant will defect without hesitation. Nell knows the Demon Lord will take each issue on its merit, hard and unshakable as granite. Looking at Mylene, Nell thinks that she must have sensed that too. Speaking of Mylene, she informs them that she came to arrange their invitation to the capital, but now, setting aside that premise, she personally wishes to present Zakrant to His Majesty Ingril. Now Mylene is pretty sure that they can both clasp hands and weave the future as friends. With that, she goes down on one knee and respectfully invites Zakrant to the Mazal Kingdom. The Demon Lord tells her that there's no need for such courtesy given how he's just a country lord. Then to Nell, he tells the strategist to come along too. Our hero can only sigh once again at the development of these things. Later that night, Asuka is a bouncing ball of energy. We're off to Mazal starting tomorrow, she exclaims excitedly. Then there's Meisha, who's already drooling while thinking about the delicious foods they have at Mazel. Unlike them, Meg's a little regretful, thinking that she should have brought more pocket money. We can't exactly earn along the road by pickpocketing anymore, she sighs. To that, Asuka suggests they hit some bandit gangs. Those dudes might be hoarding treasure, right? Looking at Asuka and Misha, who are both raring to go, Nell had to remind them that they're not going to Mazel for fun. Plus, why are they all on his bed? Anyway, where were they? He was still busy talking to Milialia. Piran Castle predates the founding of the Lintlight Kingdom, which makes things complicated, she tells him. Right. So demons originally built a castle on land that belonged to no nation and lived there. Then the humans founded a nation without noticing. Nell and Milialia's worry is that if Mazel makes Piran its vassal and it becomes public, conflict is inevitable. It's like their territory was shaved off unilaterally. But the major difference now is that the Mazel Kingdom backs Piran Castle. Milialia asks if this means Piran's safety is guaranteed, but Nell says it is if the upper ranks of Lintlight have any sense. Do they have sense? Our country, I mean, she asks, unsure. To that, Nell also answers her, unsure. I hope so. In his mind, he knows that the reality of the situation is that rebellions are spreading everywhere, which seems to prove otherwise. But there are fine men like General Kaitos at the core, so a swift overthrow shouldn't happen, hopefully, right? All this hard talk is boring. Asaka springs up from behind Nell, but he easily ducks, making her land on her face. If you're bored, then head back to your room, he answers stiffly. It's bedtime for good girls. Instead of following, both Meisha and Asaka start to gang up on him, claiming they're good girls who can't sleep unless they're with Nell. Enough. Our hero throws all four of them out of his room, slamming the door shut as he bids them good night. The next day, as they were about to depart, Nell had his hesitations. Looking at Zakrent, who has no escort, he asks the Demon Lord if he's really okay to head to Mazel without any. It's on foot to the border, you know, Nell reminds him. But Zakrent is confident since he has Nell, and that's plenty enough for him. Salieri chimes in, reassuring Nell that she's coming too so he can ease up a little. Even Asuka vouches for Sally's strength, knowing she's pretty strong because they sparred. Wait, Sally? He can't believe Salieri and Asuka are hitting it off pretty well. Admittedly, he was suspicious at first, but it seems that the Dark Elf girl was just acting per her profession. But wait, speaking of profession, Salier's gift is hero, and her job is magic swordsman, if he remembers correctly, right? This pleases Nell because it widens their strategic options. She and Asaka could form a two-top with Nell focusing on command in the center. Or, they can run a double caster formation with Milialia or pair with Meta to field two skirmishes. Just thinking about it is enough to get Nell humming, while Meisha moves closer to him. And what about me? She asks with a pout. Your position is fixed since you're the linchpin. And that was more than enough to send Meisha beaming. Well, with their numbers, Nell finds it hard to settle down since he can't help but think in terms of big battles. Meanwhile, somewhere else in the kingdom, General Kaitos cuts down his enemy with no mercy. Don't let up the attack, those who betray the state, cut them all down, he commands. At his feet, he notices an adventurer who joined that recent mountain sweep. He finds it foolish that the lad decided to join the rebel army. No, perhaps the truly foolish one is our nation, he thinks, standing tall as he did so. Asuka sighs contentedly with a smile. She always wondered what it's like to bathe in a place like this given how they only bathed outdoors. Like her, the rest of the foursome relishes the relaxing bath, with Malalia saying this is the best. Misha, on the other hand, can't help but wish that Nell had joined them too. Such a shame. Speaking of Nell, he shouts from the other side of the fence, also enjoying a hot bath on his own. He could hear the girls, you know? Honestly, these girls. In case you're wondering how they ended up here, the Hope clan actually booked an inn in a hot spring town called Apple Rival, which is located right before Masel's capital, Lisansen. Apparently this check-in is part of Masel's kingdom's welcome to them. From the other side, Nell could hear another person join the rest of the Jopi clan at the bath. It's Salieri. She asks why Nell is alone, a little disappointed because they had a special treat prepared for him. She even tells him how Lord Zakrant himself is enjoying his own special treat. Asuka jumps upon hearing that because what do you mean Lord Zakrant has his own special treat? They may be young, but these girls have an idea what this special treat is, and they angrily call out to Nell. What's the meaning of this? That's so gross. Of course, Nell had to clear himself. This is just a misunderstanding. With that said, he exits the bath, a little embarrassed and overheated. At least he managed to clear his name somehow. Even this brief moment of alone time is cut short again with Asuka bashing her head against Nell. Mind you, this is how she expresses her excitement, violently. But Nell is more annoyed that she's not wearing her chestband properly. This is just her special service for Mom who held back. But nope, Nell noped out of there. Nah, he's good. As usual, the girls used his room as their lounging area after their bath, rolling around in their yukatas. Even Salieri is there. Looking at Nell, who's sighing in exasperation, Salieri can't help but say something. Is he impotent or something? Because why the hell is he reacting like that when he's got all these beauties around him? What even? In Nell's defense, it's because he's not a creep who lays his hands on kids. At that, Salieri smirks and reminds him that she's an adult, as if her fully developed chest were not proof enough. But instead of feeling tempted, Nell just rides along with what she has to say with disinterest. Anyway, tomorrow they arrive at the capital. They'll meet the Demon King, so he reminds the girls to mind their manners. Malalia asks if they just need to kneel behind him like they did when they met General Kaidos. For what it's worth, Malalia doesn't think they could be rude even if they wanted to. Nell continues that this time, the Demon King Ingril wants to commend their personal deeds as individuals. So to speak, the formal ceremony is only for Zakrant. And they, the Hope clan, will just chat a bit in the reception room. Upon hearing that, Meisha starts to feel nervous. What if she faints? Meg tells her that she'll bring lots of candies just in case. Can't have Meisha drop her sugar now, can we? Nell says he'll handle most of the talking as usual, but he figures the girls may get questioned too, so he asks them to try not to say anything impolite. The next day they arrived at the castle as scheduled. Nell and Malalia look up at the towering structure in awe. Nell asks what she thinks of it, and the latter says it's a pretty amazing castle. Other than that, she thinks that Masal's national power tops Rintlight's in both tech and military. He tells her that she's correct. A grand castle like this proves that they have technique, capital, and the leisure to flaunt it across the nation. Nell is proud because she's learning to read more now. She tells him that's to be expected if she's with Nell. If that's the case, if ever he's gone, then Malalia will take command from there. Upon hearing that, she snaps, asking why he would say something like that. Nell calmly explains that he's just citing an example, given how unforeseen things can happen. Malalia can't help but feel emotional. She doesn't like that kind of talk at all. Nell freezes. Oh no, what has he done? It doesn't help that Salieri adds more fuel to the fire, saying he's a tactless strategist who can't read a girl's feelings. Some shabby strategist he is, huh? Ugh, Nell can't even refute that. While the party is making last-minute discussions outside, the Demon King Ingril has actually been watching them from inside the castle for some time now. Finally, the Hope clan enters the castle, where they are led to a majestic conference room. Asuka is already reeling with how elegant the room is. It's truly fit for a king. As usual, Nell had to chastise her. Unlike Asuka, Malalia is busy chanting don't be rude to herself like a mantra, and Nell had to tell her to relax a little. Then he turns to Meisha and urges her to eat some sweets while she can. But as it turns out, there's no need for him to say so. Meisha is already gobbling the sweets as they speak. Of course he can't leave out Meg, telling her off for scoping the furnishings. Dang. Nell really knows them down to the bones, huh? Little did they know Ingril had been spying on them from the crack in the door. So far he deems Nell capable, but the Demon King is worried about what to do since he heard Nell was a pretty boy leading 4 young girls. Mylene says aloud what Ingril had been thinking. Nell acts more like a mother to the girls. It kind of irks the Demon King to a certain degree, prompting him to ask if all human adventurers are like him. That's a no. Nell just happens to be the odd one out. More importantly, she advises the Demon King to stop dallying and just grant them his audience. Yes, she's right, of course. Ingril clears his throat before opening the door and greeting the Hope clan. He introduces himself and tells them to be at ease. Each member of the clan settles on their seat except for Nell. The latter remains standing as he extends the same formal greeting to the Demon King, introducing himself as the leader of Hope. Oh? From Nell's speech alone, Ingril is impressed at how Nell was able to grasp the Demon King's intent from his tone alone. Ingril only had Mylene give this party the gist, and yet Nell shows respect not to we, the king, but to Ingril, the man. The Demon King thinks that someone who can keep such a strategist close is quite fortunate indeed. Say one thing and he'll grasp 10, then return it with a plan boosted to 15. Anyway, back to the topic at hand, the Demon King expresses his gratitude to the Hope clan and apologizes for offering monetary rewards to them, since he finds it a bit disrespectful. To this, Nell replies with a popular adage, "Justice varies by person, but money's value is the same for all." With that said, he doesn't really mind the monetary rewards. Making Ingril grin, this just makes him want Nell on his side even more. The Demon King finds the latter's situational judgment precise. What's more, Nell commands a few soldiers to rout monsters led by Ginoi. Ingril can't help but think how Nell is way too valuable to leave in the wild. But he reels himself in after all. He may have gained a stout ally in Zakrant, and getting Nell to join his side may be a bit too greedy. Ingril gets up from his seat thinking about how he could invite Nell endlessly if this were a royal audience, but too bad it's not. Anyway, he tells Nell and the rest of the Hope clan that they should take their time and enjoy sightseeing in the capital since they've come all this way to the Mazel Kingdom. Nell is more than happy to do so, especially since they had a glimpse of the hustle and bustle of the crowd from the carriage alone. Ingril turns to Salieri, saying she'll be the one to guide them around since she also seems to have taken a liking to the Hope clan. Speaking of Salieri, the Demon King thought that if Salieri could entice Nell, then he'd become one of Mazel's people. But that's just wishful thinking, seeing how enticing Nell may be. A too high ambition for the likes of Salieri. Just look at her. She's even more excited to go sightseeing than they are. Since their audience with the Demon King is finally over, Asuka is quick to call their mom and hurry it up. You best believe Nell snaps at her when she calls him that. After their brief meeting, Ingril is back at his chambers, smiling to himself. It was not lost on Mylene how His Highness is in a good mood, which he confirms. How could he not? Today he has gained many friends. For one, there's Bankrupt. He abhors war, loves his people, and most importantly, he understands the value of life. The bond with their audience with the Lord of Piran Castle is truly a good fortune for them. Of course he can't forget about Lionel the strategist as well. Heck, Ingrel almost went as far as to say that he'd praise Gyunai for introducing those two alone to him. Mylene had to clear her throat as if to remind him of what Gyunai had done. Yeah, of course, Ingrel's just joking. Gyunai has to settle his accounts properly after all. They can't let the death of the maid who used to steal the orb from the treasure vault be in vain. Mylene is almost ready to praise him, but man, Ingrel's head is still on Nell. Man, he really wanted to secure a strategist on his side. Mylene asks how long he will mull over that since they already have another problem on the horizon. Ingrel knows it's the war with Rintlight, right? Speaking of Rintlight, the kind have just finished their convention and made a proclamation. The Rintlight Kingdom declares an invasion of the Mazel Kingdom ruled by the Demon King. Nell stares wide-eyed at the bag they had just secured. With the reward money alone from the Mazel Kingdom, they could easily live for a year. Asuka asks if he plans on saving it again, and of course he does. It's for their future after all. The girl's shoulders drop upon hearing that. Well, at least that's what Nell wanted to say, but since they've come all the way to Mazel, he thinks a little splurging should be allowed. Asuka instantly beams, along with the rest of the girls. Yay, let's get to spending. Nell turns to Salieri and asks if she's got any good places to recommend, and the latter is more than happy to do so. For starters, she leads them to a magic shop, saying it's a must-visit here in Mazel. Nell's not too surprised with that given how the country's tech can produce such incredible ancient magic results. For sure the shop must be selling amazing items. No sooner had he said that than he spotted one of those amazing items. An amazing staff, and the price is quite amazing too. Oh-ho, even Salieri didn't know about this. She hasn't been here for a while, so she's surprised that the shop also carries stuff like this now, and then turns to Malalia. The staff is called Waterwolf Fenrir, explaining to the latter that it boosts ice magic. If Malalia wields it, then she might be able to solo a chimera, no? Nell already had that idea in his head. Asuka quickly says they'll buy it. Nell explains that if they do buy the staff, then it would wipe out 70% of the reward money. It's not wasteful, but he can't exactly blow it all on one item. At that, Meisha's puzzled because why not? It's a rare find. Meg is on board with this too. Plus, they probably won't get another chance to shop with this much money. Well, that's true. Plus, they might never be able to visit the Mazel Kingdom again. Alright, it's decided they'll buy it as clan equipment. As for the leftover money, they'll split it among everyone and call it a day. He turns and asks everyone if they're good with that, and the girls are more than happy to do so. After buying the staff, they continue walking through the city square. Looking around, you can feel the Demon King's policy of mingling with everyone, walking the streets without barriers. Salieri asks if Nell discussed this with His Majesty, and he tells her that he didn't. He actually just read it, and so did Ingrel in his own way. In his mind, he felt the Demon King was eloquent and not one to be carelessly handled. He probably figured if Nell couldn't read between the lines, that was that. Salieri replies that she doesn't get it, or does she? And Nell still can't get a read on her. But whatever. All this hard talk makes one hungry. Meisha in particular. Yeah. Nell had a feeling she was going to say that. And speaking of food, Salieri's got a place to recommend. That night the Hope clan plus Salieri lounge in bed with a contented sigh in their underwear. Actually, they're dang near getting a stomachache from how much they ate. But the place is not bad, right? Nell says it is quite good, and he's not going to comment on this ridiculous setup they have right now. Asuka, for one, has always wanted to get full-on cake alone, and it looks like her dream came true. Even Meg taps out, she's good without sweets for a while. Unlike them, Meisha is reeling because that was pure bliss. It's like the kingdom of God was right there. Nell had to tell her to mind her words since the supreme god's going to smite her for what she just said. Just then they hear a knock on their door. Nell gets up and grabs his sword as he answers the door. The demon messenger apologizes for interrupting them, embarrassed for doing so, but since this concerns the state, with that said, he really had to deliver this piece of urgent news even if Nell and the others are in the middle of intimacy. Nell doesn't even bother clearing his name and just gives the messenger a blank stare before taking the letter. Our hero reads through it quickly and tells the girls to get ready at once. The letter is an urgent summons from Demon King Ingrel himself. The Hope clan quickly meets His Highness, with the latter already expecting them. He thanks the party for their quick response to his call as he reveals to them that during yesterday's council, King Morrison of Rintlight decided to invade the Mazel Kingdom. The girls are shocked, and Nell could only narrow his eyes. To make up for political failures with the military, they'll invade the Mazel Kingdom and distribute its wealth to try to quell the Lord's discontent. Of course, Nell doesn't really believe that this would truly end the rebellions. Even Ingrel is aware that the king's goal is to distract the populace from the frequent uprisings. On top of that, they're probably also aiming to sap the power of disgruntled lords by forcing them to send troops, meaning the first to be thrown in will be Lord Tros, the Garia Margrave. Nell adds that Lord Tros would have to brush off the sparks that fall upon him, and many soldiers will die. What's worse is that a lot of civilians will get caught in the war and end up dead. The Demon King explicitly tells Nell that this is not what he wants. With that, he hands the Hope Clan leader a letter of state to deliver to General Kaitos in Written Light's capital. Huh? How did General Kaitos factor in this? Did he hear that right? The Demon King just mentioned General Kaitos' name, right? Why did the general's name come up? In this latter state, does that mean it's a royal edict? Finally, Nell pieced it together. General Kaitos is in contact with Mosul. While all of these thoughts run through Nell's head, it was pretty obvious based on the look on his face that the former is well acquainted with the general, as observed by the Demon King. To that, Nell only says that he and the general have history, and then turns to look at Salieri. Sensing his wariness, Ingril assures him that the news didn't come from the general this time. But this time even Nell is impressed because Masel clearly has the upper hand here. The said kingdom is already aware of the capital's events the next day, even though they're over a month away from the place on foot. Anyway, back to more important matters. Ingril asks Nell if he's up to the task. The latter turns to the girls, and they're already smiling and nodding. With their blessings, Nell humbly accepts the Demon King's task. Well, now that's settled, Ingril tells them he'll have a ship prepared at once, and calls Mylene. He didn't need to instruct her since she already knew what to do. At the mention of the ship, Nell frowns. Won't traveling by sea take longer? Ingril only smirks and crosses his arms, saying Nell will understand once he sees the ship. Okay? The party leader then tells His Majesty that they'll return to the inn and pack in the meantime. But before that, he has to ask Ingril something. Where did His Majesty meet General Kaitos? Ingril recalls the first time he met Kaitos was back during a skirmish, dating 30 years ago. Back then, a much younger Kaitos fought Ingril and lost, his sword breaking in half. He admits defeat. He offers his head for the Demon King's taking. But to his shock, Ingril restores Kaitos' sword instead and hands the weapon back to him. Kaitos is apprehensive and angry. Why? Is his life not worth taking? The Demon King says that's not it. He was just impressed by Kaitos' martial valor for taking a head-on fight in this situation. With that said, he asked the young Kaitos what future he carries and if he would show it to the Demon King. From there, Ingril and Kaitos hit it off, talking about the future, and began corresponding since then. In his mind, Nell almost found this story cool, but then Ingril undercut it. It makes him wonder if it's a demon folk thing. Just then, Nell's eyes were set on something past the Demon King as they heard something approaching. Well, would you look at that? It seems the ship has been arranged. Nell stares wide-eyed because he didn't expect an airship at all. Ingril boasts that it's built with the finest magitech the Mazel Kingdom possesses, the sky-sailing Crystalmancer. Given the urgency of the matter, the Hope Clan boarded the Crystalmancer and were sent on their way to the Rintlight Kingdom. The ship's captain announces that after an hour of travel from the capital, they're about to enter the Rintlight Kingdom's territory. Nell finds their travel unbelievable, and yet at the same time it worries him, because who would have thought it's possible to travel from Mazel Kingdom's capital, Lisansen, to Rintlight Kingdom's capital, Galangren, in just an hour? Normally it would take a month's journey on foot to reach the place. The Demon King said he doesn't plan to use this tech for war, but there's a chance other nations could steal this technology. Should that happen, everything they know about war will change. Malalia asks if there is no way to prevent this technology from leaking at all. To that, Nell says the best option is to avoid fighting and not to get involved at all. Unfortunately, they're already in too deep, seeing how they share a border, and the bureaus are thriving. Nell is already thinking about the worst-case scenario. If war breaks out, each side's tactics and technologies will be leaked. Like how an archaeologist studies an entire era from a single ancient manuscript. Strategists and staff officers can infer many things from tiny bits of information and use them in the next battle. Well, they're already flying to stop the war, right? But Malalia doesn't exactly understand how delivering a letter of state to General Kaitos could stop a war from breaking out. Nell says it's because the general is someone who can speak directly to the king. If from the general's mouth it's told to the king that the Demon King wishes peace with Rintlight, then the former just can't ignore it. Malalia then asks if things would really go that smoothly, and Nell only hopes that they do. As things stand, the war against the Mazel Kingdom has been drawn out, so if peace is achieved, the current King Morrison's prestige will rise. Rather than waging a war where victory is uncertain, stacking up achievements of peace would likely silence the discontented nobles. If King Morrison understands that, then avoiding war should be attainable. Grave matter aside, this just also made Nell realize how he keeps getting tied to people with the hero talent, no? There's the Demon King Ingril and General Kaitos, who both fulfilled great deeds in line with their talents. There's also Luke, the one who got warped along the way. And of course there's Asuka, who is still developing. It makes Nell wonder what kind of hero she will grow into. Whatever that might be, he could only hope that she would become a hero loved by everyone. Thinking about all of that got Nell crying quietly because he's worried. Malalia, who's on his side, thought that he was moved to tears thanks to the view from the sky. Anyway, they reach the city by nightfall. The captain of Crystalmancer tells them that they'll splash down on Lake Misakas under the cover of night. Thankfully, the captain handled the landing with practiced ease, but now things are starting to make sense to him. Didn't the general tell him before that he chose this villa because it has a scenic spot? But judging from recent events, it made Nell think there might be more to that, huh? Anyway, Nell thanks the captain for the help and the latter cheers them on. Alrighty then, head count. Nell counts 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5, huh? Why is Salieri also lined up along with the girls? What is she doing here? Actually, she hasn't gotten any new orders yet, which is why she decided just to stick around and look after everyone. This works for her because it means she won't get scolded if she plays around with Hope Clan for a little while longer. Nell has his suspicions, though he does fully believe that what she meant by play is to help them out. Just then, Asuka grabs Salieri's arm, adding that it would be great if Sally came along. Now that someone's on her side, Salieri turns to Mama Nell. He heard her, right? What choice does Nell have but to allow it? Fine, he'll allow her to work with the team for a little while longer. With that, they move straight out to the capital. Come morning, the Hope Clan arrives at the capital's entry. From the outside, Meg can't help but comment on how everything looks pretty normal. It's pretty much like an everyday scene at Galia. Nell replies that this is because the capital hasn't started the war's prep phase yet. The earliest they could actually invade is 6 months from now. Malalia turns to him, confirming if this is the best chance to call it off. Well, as far as Nell knows, the capital only decided to invade, so it won't be easy to stop. However, it's far easier than stopping it once the plan is in motion. If they act now, no one will have to suffer a loss. Nell is well aware that this is exactly why the Demon King rushed it and even went as far as allowing them to use his latest craft. Just then the entry guard calls, "Next," meaning it's Nell's and his party's turn. The former spots them as adventurers and asks their purpose of visit. Nell hesitates for a bit, thinking about how he doesn't want his pockets probed right now, but on the other hand, acting too wary will just make them suspicious of him. Ultimately, he sticks with introducing himself as an honor guard of Mikasa Lakeside City and the leader of Hope. He explains that they had just come from a job nearby and decided to drop by the capital to pay their respects to General Kaitos. With that, he asks the entry guard for permission to enter. With that, Nell waits with bated breath, thinking about how grateful he is that he has an official title he can state, even if it's just an honorary position with no real authority. The eyes of the entry guard twinkled because he's face to face with the hero of Mikasa. Word has reached his ears of the tale of how the 4 heroes of Hope fought off 100 Sahuagin. Plus, he also knows Sir Lionel in the famous butterfly dancing in the sunset. Upon hearing that, Nell winced, but he brushed it off, seeing how the guard ushered them to enter, excited to welcome a hero visiting the city. From the back, Asuka asks Malalia what the guard meant when he said butterfly dancing in the sunset, and the latter shares that they must be referring to the popular ballad by the bards. From what she heard, it's a tale about the fall of the golden silkworm butterfly that their mama Nell once belonged to. From ahead, Nell could hear their conversation, and in his mind, Malalia is correct, though he finds the story outrageous. It's the story of how Vice Captain Lionel gives up on Luke, the enfeebled leader, and leaves him, taking many comrades upon his exit. That's weird. Nell's pretty sure that in his memory, he's exiled alone. But speaking of comrades, 2 officers were always worried about him and Luke until the end, Joshua and Nickel. Nell wonders if they're doing well, but figures they both would be fine without him, so he didn't think much of them. Well, maybe he ought to ask about the 2 to Jennifer once they get back to Galia. Cut to the next scene. General Kaitos happily greets Nell. He's even more pleased to see that the girls are doing well too, extending his welcome to the whole Hope Clan. Nell quickly talks business and informs the general that he came bearing a letter of state as an envoy from the Demon King Ingril. Upon hearing that, the general became serious, remembering how the Demon King was quite the character. He takes the letter from Nell and breezes through it, eyes wide at the content of the letter. But the general's not too surprised since he expected that much from Ingril, and the letter is very much like him. General Kaitos rolls up the letter, saying if the Demon King is willing to concede this much, then talks might be easier to advance. Nell has no idea of the contents of the letter but figures the terms are favorable to Rintlight. No? The older man wouldn't necessarily call the condition favorable, but more like equal. He hands the letter to Nell, the latter a little wary at how the general would have him look at the letter. But after reading the letter, even Nell is surprised. The letter contains ample sincerity for walking into the future together as equals. There's not even a demand for territory or levies, showcasing that what Ingril wants is for them to stand together as true equals. Nell hands the letter back to the general, saying that with this, they have no reason to foolishly launch the first attack. The general moves quickly, suggesting they meet His Majesty, King Morrison, right now. It's a great opportunity, so Nell should come along as well. Nell pulls a face, and it's evident he doesn't want to come, saying he doesn't particularly want the king to remember his face or anything. The general scolds him for being so unenthusiastic. In Nell's mind, he's not even someone who should be granted an audience with the king. Heck, at best, he's just an honor guard. But the general won't take no for an answer. Nell is coming with him, whether the Hope leader wants to or not. Plus, General Kaitos also wants to introduce the younger man as his protege. With no choice in the matter, Nell approaches Malalia, explaining that the girls need to stay since not all of them can go. The general offers the girl lodgings at his manor, and before Nell could refuse, the older man won't take no for an answer. Besides, it's too luxurious to turn down. Ugh, fine, Nell concedes. He glances at the girls for one last time, saying he's counting on them. As Nell and the general finally meet the king, General Kaitos and Nell bow before King Morrison. Nell introduces himself, saying he's an adventurer based in Gallia and that it's the highest honor to be granted an audience with His Majesty. The king frowns, because why an adventurer? Instead of asking Nell, one of the king's advisors asks General Kaitos why he brought the likes of an adventurer given how they're busy preparing for the upcoming war. General Kaitos replies that he's well aware of the situation. However, he stresses that Nell is the one who brought the good news, which Kaitos is about to deliver, which is why he also brought along Nell to introduce to the king. At the mention of good news, the king cocks his head. The general in turn hands the letter of state to one of the advisors. The latter reads the content, saying how it proposes an unparalleled peace treaty from the Demon King. Again, the king cocks his head and parrots from the Demon King as the general states that there is benefit and no room for the kingdom to suffer any loss. And with that, the king snaps. He went ballistic, calling the general a traitor. His Majesty is angry upon knowing that the general has been dealing with the Demon King. What's more, the king questions how the general wishes for peace even before they fight. These are not words he expected from General Kaitos, famed for his fearless valor. Now the king suspects that the latter has taken a bribe from the Demon King. Of course, General Kaitos responded defensively. He can't believe the king is saying such things. Moreover, he stresses how a brave knight is not merely one who charges into danger, and that it's the same for how a nation should be. His response angered the advisors. They could not stand such insolence before His Majesty. Is it true then? Is General Kaitos swayed by the demon's wicked ways? Not a moment later, they called for the guards and immediately seized both the general and Nell, subduing them at a moment's notice. Although the king indeed sounds emotional, it also holds that what His Majesty had just said is also completely logical. Crap, this is over. So just like that, General Kaitos and Nell are both bound and thrown into the dungeon. The former apologizes to Nell, but Nell says he shouldn't do so. After all, they already discussed the possibility, but no one could have predicted it would really end up like this. The general only stares at him before looking away, cast down. So even the great general is disheartened by the situation, huh? From the looks of it, even the former didn't expect the king to explode flat out like that. When the general speaks again, he says that their view was too narrow, a sentiment Nell agrees with. King Morrison and the others refuse to accept change. They're unable to update the old belief that demons are mortal enemies. Nell can only sigh because they failed to fully account for the rigid old guard mindset of the people. General Kaitos adds that that's not all, they too were too narrow in their view regarding their values about the demons. That's true, even Nell admits that the demon folk is formidable by every measure, but to take that alone as monstrous otherness is pretty shallow. The demon's thoughts and way of life are no different from those of humans. To that, the general actually corrects him, saying he and Nell think like that because both of them deepened their understanding as they came to know Demon King Ingrel and the Massal Kingdom. Simply put, they forgot that among humans, both of them are a special case. When the realization hits, Nell hangs his head. Ugh. He can't believe he let emotions color his words, prompting the older man to laugh about it. It just goes to show that Nell is still quite young, with him promising to do better next time. Anyway, that's enough soul-searching. The general turns to him with a grin, saying that he remembers Nell saying he couldn't predict that this would happen, but for sure Nell has surely laid some plans already, right? At that, Nell smiles. It's true he's got a few lines, but it's a gamble which way it breaks. Plus, he for one knows that the general must have also made his moves, correct? From the looks of it, they both seem to have shouldered a hefty wager with this. Meanwhile, back at the general's manor, Malialia worriedly looks out the window, waiting for Nell's return. It's already sunset. Nell and the general set off in the morning, so no matter how long they drag it out, both of them should have been back by now, right? Salieri agrees because those two would refuse normal hospitality anyway. This means that some things must have happened, as the two predicted. Nell's last words echo in Malialia's head, remembering how he told her that they should escape the nightfall if they hadn't returned by nightfall. If Nell and the general are really captured, then it's only a matter of time before the general's family here in the manor is also. It won't take long before the royal army surrounds this place. That's when Salieri steps in and reminds her how Nell told Milaria to escape. If he had said if you like, then it's a no-brainer that the girls would choose to save Nell, right? Milalia says that since it's possible at this stage, Nell made sure she wouldn't realize that. Hey, so he deliberately removed the option to go save them, prompting Milalia to wonder if Nell did that on purpose. Salieri looks at the other girls and says it's because Nell hates it when everyone does dangerous things, which is pretty motherly love he's showing for all of them. Meisha speaks for the girls, saying that's just needless overthinking, with Asuka adding that it's a choice they'd make. So it's decided. Milalia says they're going to save that dummy mama of theirs. Just then another voice asks about the details of their plan to save him. The girls are rattled and shocked to see there's a man at the door, Asuka even more so than the others. Milalia had to tell her to calm down. It's Lord Kirill, the general's right hand. Oh, Asuka perks up because this man is a strategist like their mom. Kirill frowns, thinking she's referring to Lord Lionel, right? Anyway, Kirill says that as much as he admired their loyalty, he can't have them acting out on their own. Meisha promises they won't cause any trouble. They just want to save Nell. To that, Kirill then asks her how she would rescue them without grasping the castle's layout or troop placements. Malialia answers him instead, saying that's where he comes in because that's why they need him for that. For sure Kirill knows it all, right? The latter holds her gaze, asking Malalia if she really thinks he would help the likes of them mere adventurers. Malalia thinks that Kirill must have also received orders to flee with the general's wife and his family, should anything unforeseen befall General Kaidos. But considering an unknown number of pursuers, a safe escape is difficult. With that said, Malalia proposes they cause a stir in the castle, play decoy like mere adventurers, and rescue the general along with them. Again, Kirill questions her, this time asking if she really thinks they alone can play decoy. This made Malalia doubt herself, but Asuka placed her hand on the former's shoulder. Just who does Kirill think he's talking to? They're the super strong Hope clan, the ones who drove off 100 Sahu again, the heroes of Mikasa. Asuka has a determined look in her eyes, claiming that even bundled soldiers won't beat them, and that they will definitely save both Nell and General Kaitos. Meg and Meisha echo the same sentiments, while Kirill falls silent. So this must be what the general meant. He sighs and reveals how the general told him to brace himself for something beyond common sense to happen. Alright, he acknowledges their resolve, and Milialia couldn't be thankful enough. However, Kirill tells her that they're not going for decoys. There's a better plan. Later that night, the Hope clan and Kirill decide to take action. Milialia tells the latter that they'll count on him for the rest, with Kirill replying that they'll rendezvous at the usual place. She then turns to Salieri and asks the latter to do her thing. The tip of Salieri's index finger lights up as she casts an invisibility spell over everyone. Amazing! Asuka was so shocked she couldn't contain her excitement. Meg had to tell her to pipe down since she was ruining the point of the spell. Oops, sorry. Cloaked in invisibility, the five of them walk past the castle guards, with Meg picking the lock on the gate. They head to where the water supply is located and pour a certain kind of power, while the two guards sit unaware of their presence. Before long, both men were knocked out. Back to Nell and the general. Nell thinks that it must be around dusk by now, but his train of thought gets disrupted when he hears an unfamiliar noise, followed by their guard collapsing before him. Huh? What the? Both Nell and the general stare as the portcullis opens by itself, and before Nell realizes, all five girls cheerfully land before him with a thud. Wah! He's alive! Nell calls them idiots, as he couldn't believe what they had just done. Didn't he tell them to run? The girls can only laugh, because doesn't he know them by now? For sure. Nell knows they wouldn't do that right. If anything, they're just happy that both men are alright. They proceed to cut through Nell and the general's binds, with the latter proclaiming how the girls always save them. Malalia informs him that Kirill prepared their escape, so they should hurry. The general breaks into a huge laugh because even Kirill couldn't best the girls, huh? Speaking of Kirill, Malalia hands a few small bags to Nell, saying the former also gave them a bunch of stuff to carry. Nell checks them out and realizes that the content of one bag is the reason they were able to put the guard to sleep, while the other one is a laxative. He turns to Salieri then and asks she cast the same invisibility spell from before. She easily does this, so now everyone's invisible. Nell says there's a popular saying that goes, a departing bird leaves no trace, but the bird called Hope doesn't do that. So he suggests they dirty the place up and stride out the front. Nell pours the contents of the bag into the castle's water supply, and from there all hell breaks loose at the castle. One of the guards ran up to his superior reporting that there had been an issue. They have confirmed the jailbreak of the traitors Kaidos and Lionel. However, he doesn't get to finish his sentence, prompting his superior officer to ask, just what the hell is he doing? The young man has a strained look on his face, almost doubling over as he clutches his stomach. Finally, he manages to finish his report, saying that some sort of mysterious stomach pains and vomiting struck everyone. Huh? Just what the hell is happening? Is there no one left who can still move within the castle? Nell, the general, and the Hope clan managed to escape from the castle without a hitch. Right now, they're still on the run, on board one of the wagons. It's been 7 days since their breakout, still no contact with the pursuers. It seems the laxative they dumped into the well during their escape did the trick. No? However, Kirill clarifies that its effect lasts at best for a single bout, so it's a little more than a stopgap. They scattered sky carriages in all directions and spread false sightings, but he also thinks they should assume they'll catch up soon. Nell doesn't reply and only looks away. The general grins at him, he knows that look on Nell's face. Nell must be plotting something again, right? Well, he admits that it's nothing grand. Before Nell could even say it out loud, the general granted him permission. He knows that must be why Nell hesitates, which is why he urges the adventurer to use his talents to the fullest. Despite the general's green light, Nell is still hesitant and turns to Kirill, but the latter has no objections since the general has spoken. Nell sighs in relief and the general is more than eager to know what he's thinking. It's most likely that the royal army, thrown off by Kirill's diversion, has lost track of them and scattered units in all directions. Ahead, the forest becomes dense and the routes narrow, which naturally funnels the pursuers to the road. The general asks if Nell wants them to smash them here all at once. He thinks it's impossible given that their numbers are unknown and that the terrain is not in their favor. However, you could also say the same for them. The Royal Arms will be wary of how the general's 120 troops might strike. So, to seize the initiative in that game of probing, he thinks Hope should stage an ambush. If one wants to win without intel, no good plan can bear fruit. The general breaks out laughing once he hears what Nell has to say. So that's what the Hope clan leader is aiming for. The boldness of seeking victory and not flight. Hey, if anything, this just made the general like Nell even more. Nell low-key regrets it. He can't believe he just said something belligerent without thinking. He turns to Asuka in horror, wondering if she had just rubbed herself on him. Anyway, the general goes along with Nell's plan, which is to proceed on horseback while also praying for Nell's success. Cut to the next scene. A bird flies over the troops on horses and Salieri says she found them. The bird, who turns out to be one of her familiars, informs Nell that 10 riders are incoming. 10? So it's a scouting party. Milialia asks him what they will do next, but he throws the question back to her. What does she think is the best course of action now? She tells him that if they leave them alone, obviously they'll find Hope and report to the main force. With that said, she believes they should crush them here and now to delay the enemy's advances. Nell says she is current. Furthermore, he adds that there is no need to let them carry back a report. If the 10 scouts don't return, the main force will hesitate, which would buy them ample time. Even Nell finds that a good idea. Without further ado, Nell turns to Meg, and the latter is already on it before he can even issue orders. As for the troops, their leader instructs the men to find them, even if they have to comb every blade of grass. They rush headlong, unaware of what's waiting ahead of them. Just then, one of the horses tripped into the trap, causing its rider and a few others to collapse. What the? Who goes there? One of the riders asks. To that, Nell replies that it's his one-way ticket to the afterlife. As he and Asuka spring up from behind, Asuka apologizes to the horses in advance for what she's about to do. She cuts them down, forcing the rider to fall to the ground. But before he could get up, Meg stabbed him to death. The remaining army members have their swords unsheathed, calling the Hope clan minions of the traitor Kaitos. But the three of them were no match for Milialia's three-way ice lance and Salieri's salamander tongue, a fire and ice combo. Next panel, we see Meisha is busy healing one of the horses, commending her party mates for a job well done. Milialia sighs, a bit pleased that they won without a scratch, but Asika finds them boring. The royal army is too weak. Nell tells her not to be careless, seeing how the men they fought were just scouts, and stronger ones are bound to show up. He asks Meisha about the horses' conditions, and she's happy to report that they've all fully recovered. Asuka pets the animal's nuzzle, apologizing for what she did earlier to them. The horses are the only ones spared from death, with Milialia saying animals aren't at fault. What she said is true, but Nell has ulterior motives. Captured horses are valuable not just as transport but in many useful ways. Like, if they're sold, they'd fetch a pretty good price too. There it is, Nell's greedy side. But Meg can't blame him because she gets it. In his defense, he's also desperate in his own ways too, Salieri intervenes and suggests they wrap it up and hurry to catch up to the general. They do as she suggested, with Nell returning to report Hope's operations to General Kaitos. The latter commends them for a job well done, and Kirill quickly moves over to the map to show them that they'll most likely be caught in a certain spot. According to the intel he just received from Nell, the latter looks over the map and knows the place. It's about a day from the Gairia towns and the furthest point from which they can still initiate. Under Count Dross's protection, Nell knows that even the royal army can't act easily. At that, Milialia cuts in, worried, and tells him that there's no guarantee the Count will help General Kaitos. Oh, he will help all right. Nell is pretty sure, glancing at the general who's also smiling. That's because they're accomplices. The Count runs an illicit trade with the Massal Kingdom and the general corresponds directly with the Demon King. If they say that, then the Count won't have a choice. So if the general is captured, the smuggling comes to light and the Count gets hailed in with him. Plus, Nell says they'll want to weaken Gairia's power base. Simply put, a mighty regional lord is nothing but a nuisance. However, Count Dross lacks the force to oppose the kingdom outright, and Milialia finishes the rest. She understands that this is why they want General Kaitos. Conversely, the royal army will try at all costs to take him down before he reaches Gairia, which makes the next move to throw all forces at the last possible point. Nell says that's standard play and could only sigh, because they too would love to have reinforcements. Kirill shares in his lament, though he did send a fast rider to the Count yesterday. Unfortunately, they might not make it in time, so Nell's small group would have to make do with what they have. As Kirill predicted, the royal army came to them charging with a whole battalion. From what they're seeing, Salieri deduces that they must have scraped together patrols and way station guards to make up the battalion. In short, these men are real brainiacs. Nell may be smiling, but he's wary. A rough count of their opponents is around 240, that's twice their number. So what's the next move here? Looking at their enemies rushing before them, it's pretty obvious that Nell's side is overwhelmingly at a disadvantage. But since the enemy chose quantity over quality, he saw that the troops' coordination seemed poor. He turns to General Kaitos and asks if the latter would approve of his move to scatter the enemy. The general grins, entrusting all operational moves to Nell since he already sent Kirill to guide the non-combatants. He gives Nell full permission to showcase the plan he seems to favor best. With the general's permission, Nell turns to Milialia, asking her to give him one big shot. Hey, she's more than happy to give him more than one. She points her staff to the sky and casts a three-way ice lance. But that's not all, she doubles it. Nell is pretty amazed at the move she just pulled, but Milialia is not done yet. From the sky she casts Shatter and sends shards of ice debris into the enemy troops. Ha! That move just disrupted their coordination, so Nell quickly calls in the cavalry to move. Led by General Kaitos, he already knew Nell's instructions before the younger could even give them, ordering his men to keep pressing. Nell orders the infantry to move forward as well. If they go straight, routed enemies driven by the general will flee toward them. Charge! Asuka and Salieri are at the front, rushing headfirst into the battle. As they ran, Asuka told her that once they reached the town, the loser with the lowest kill score was buying. Salieri's pretty confident of her win, apologizing to Asuka for making her treat her. As for the mage unit, Nell instructs them to keep up the long-range spellfire. For the cleric unit, he issues an order to focus on long-distance healing and minimize friendly losses. Meg goes ahead and tells Nell that they'll stay here to guard the rear echelon. Thanks to Malalia's magic, she's pretty confident that this battle will be easy peasy. So far the enemy has lost over 10% of their strength in the opening hit. Even if they slip past the cavalry's charge, they'll get hit by the infantry's assault. Wait a minute, Nell just realized something. After taking this much damage, any commander worth their salt would issue further orders to regroup and prevent more losses, wouldn't they? Crap, this is bad. He starts muttering under his breath and Malalia notices this, asking what's the matter. To that, Nell points out how their enemies aren't running away, so what does she think? Now that he mentioned it, even Malalia finds that strange. Are they stalling for reinforcements? Nell points out that if they face their attacks in different waves, they'll slowly be wiped out one by one. In that case, massing from the start would wipe them out more easily. To him it looks like they're aiming for mutual destruction, like wraiths trying to drag them down to hell. Malalia pales as she finally realizes what's happening. It's a war of attrition. Quickly she tells Nell that they need to do something. At this rate, the general and Asaka's group will be in trouble. Unfortunately, Nell tells her that there are no moves left to play. He could only look down because what exactly could they do? All their forces are engaged and they don't have anything as fancy as a reserve. Right here they only have 13 mages and clerics. Plus he and Meg are the only ones suited for close combat. Nell balls his fist harder as he can't help but wish that they had more troops. Like 50, no, even 30 would do. As fate would have it, the supreme god must have heard his wish because from the back a voice tells him that he's in luck. Those very 30 have just arrived. It's Josh and Nickel. The two were happy to see them, with Nickel proclaiming how they're here to help. According to the other, they ran without sleep, so everyone's kind of high and can't handle complicated orders. Nell can't believe the two are here, while another man appears and tells Nell that he has been working these men hard under the clan Undertakers. Nell's eyes widen in shock because it's Nazar, but more importantly, why the Undertakers? Nazar says he'll talk later. For now he asks Nell, the master strategist, for orders. Right, they're in the middle of a battle. Nell's order is a simple one. Charge and trample the enemy. Nazar acknowledges the order and in turn tells his men to move out. In the midst of the battle, Asuka sees that reinforcements are here. The faces of the general's men light up, with Asuka telling them that they shouldn't let the reinforcements outdo them. Meanwhile, Salieri points her to a certain man who looks to be the commander of the enemy troops. Oho, that guy. Salieri says she'll handle things on this end while Asuka makes a beeline toward the enemy's commander. But her path isn't clear. A couple of enemy soldiers block her way, even proclaiming how they've got an idiot before them who's charging in alone. They thrust their lance at Asuka, but she jumps high and uses the tip of their weapon as her footing. She pulls her sword back, ready to strike, saying she's got no time to waste on small fry. With one swift move, she cuts them down in one go. Asuka rushes straight to the man who looks like the captain and strikes first, eager to take his head. The captain blocks her attack, angry that an insolent brat would dare take him on like this. Ha! He'll cut her down and aim for Asuka's head. She easily evades, bending backward as he thrusts his lance at her. While still leaning backward, Asuka easily cuts his weapon in half, much to the older man's shock. Asuka grins and tells him he's pretty careless for taking his eyes off his enemy, as she did what she promised and took his head. Heh, it's her win.